So we'll go live in one minute, and just checking with all the panelists, if we can do one by one, just to check your sound quality and check your camera quality. So Cheryl Cohen, can you for 1 second unmute yourself and just say welcome to everyone? We've got probably about 600 people watching you so far.
Hi, happy to be here and really looking forward to this wonderful discussion.
Fantastic. Sean, you're going to be conducting the panel this evening. Welcome. Great to have you on board.
How are you? Great to be here. Looking forward.
Great. Hanan, are those real books behind you on the bookshelf?
Yes, and I've read all of them at least 3 times.
Leanne, I see your camera is going up and down. It looks like you're on a little bit of a roller coaster there.
Trying to get a good angle here. Hi.
All your angles are good angles, Leanne, and the camera is fantastic.
Oh, how would you flatter me?
Thank you, Richard. Sound check from you.
Yeah, hi, it's great to be here. It's so exciting to be part of such a community event.
Great, fantastic. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the time is now 8:31 and we really want to keep to time. So on behalf of the South African Jewish Report, I want to welcome everyone onto this panel. This is in fact the 3rd panel we've run this week. On Sunday evening, we had a panel of doctors, of medical experts, and it was a very practical question and answer, what you should and shouldn't be doing through the COVID crisis. And that was amazing. On Tuesday evening, we had a panel of comedians, including Gilly Apter and Nick Rabinowitz and Claudine Ullman, and we had more than 5,000 people watching that panel, and that was amazing. So this is, in fact, our 3rd panel in the series. It is a panel of psychos. I keep on telling people we've got some psychotherapists together, and we'll be introducing all of you to them in a few minutes. But I want to thank all of our panelists. None of our panelists get paid. They've all volunteered their time for the community to be able to help everyday South Africans in getting through this unbelievably difficult crisis. So I want to thank all our panelists for doing this. But most importantly, I want to thank Dan Stillerman. You'll see his picture somewhere on the screen in front of you. We hijacked Dan's life a few weeks ago, and we asked him if he would allow us to use his Zoom facilities that he uses for Excel Academy. We asked him if he would allow us to hijack his facilities, and he kept on offering more and more, and we've taken more and more advantage of him. This would be absolutely impossible without the unbelievable effort and facilities that Dan has provided, and the enormous amount of time that he does. All those emails you keep on getting, the WhatsApp messages, the groups that you belong to, the fact that this panel is set up, it is all because of Dan. So Dan Stillerman, you're an absolute tzaddik. You are a great benefit to our community. And on behalf of everyone, I just want to thank you for your time, your energy, your effort, your enthusiasm, and everything you do for all of us. So thank you so much. It's really appreciated.
Thank you.
I want to quickly run you through 2 things just before we begin. The first thing is what panels are coming up over the next few days. And the next panel that we're going to be doing is in fact at 8 o'clock on Saturday evening. And we're going to be having a family general knowledge quiz. Howard Feldman is our grand quiz master. And what are we doing? We've got 8 different sections with quiz masters for each section. So David Shapiro will be the quiz master about business. Rolene Marks will be tuning in from Israel and being the quiz master about Israel. Dr. Dean Gerson will be doing healthcare. I'll be doing travel and geography. Dina Diamond will be doing People magazine and celebrities and movies and things like that. We've got Arthur Goldstuck doing a section about technology and nerdy stuff. He'll be asking questions. And who else have I missed out? Herschel Javits, the king of sports trivia in South Africa. Herschel Javits will in fact be asking sports questions as well. And the idea is that this is a game for the entire family. And we went to the guys from SMD Technologies and we've asked them to donate some prizes. So there'll be prizes for the winning team. So please, 8 o'clock Saturday evening, get your entire family involved. Bring with a piece of paper and a pen, and let's have some fun together on Saturday night and actually enjoy ourselves. Motzei Shabbos coming up. So that's on Saturday night. Sunday night, just very briefly, Dina Diamond will be running a health and fitness panel. I can tell you all now, Dean Furman, the ex-Bafana coach and Bafana player, is on the panel. We've got Andrew and Paul Rothschild, who have really created the gym industry in South Africa. They'll be joining on the panel as well. Nadine Hurwitz will be doing a yoga session for us on the panel. Brendy Sandelson will be doing something on mindfulness as well. So Sunday evening, I'm not sure what time we're going live, but you will get notification. So Sunday evening is going to be health and fitness. So please tune in for that. And on Monday night, we have a session that's going to be run by Benji Porter. And it is called, Why is this Pesach different from all other Pesachs? And I'm so happy to announce that the Chief Rabbi will be joining us, as well as Esty Stern and Rabbi Feldman from Cape Town. And the idea is, what can we do this year? This Pesach Seder is going to be so different from every other Pesach Seder. What can we do to make sure that this year's Seder is cool, fun, and funky? So that will be Monday night coming up. So those are the next few panels. And I look forward, and I certainly hope that all of you will be joining us. So to the about 550 people who've tuned in already onto this panel, a huge welcome from the South African Jewish Report. And just to tell you once again, you can go online at any point in time, sajr.co.za, and download a full edition of this week's 54-page Pesach edition Jewish Report newspaper. So let me repeat the website, www.sajr.co.za, download the full edition. Or alternatively, if you are going shopping, we are delivering to Woolworths, we're delivering to Pick and Pay, we're delivering to Dis-Chem as well, and all the kosher food shops. So if you're going out shopping, number one, please take care, please be safe, please in fact sanitize. But if you're going out, copies of the Jewish Report will be available to you, as well as we'll be delivering on Friday to about 60 or 70 blocks of flats and townhouse complexes where people gave us information that they'd like deliveries to take place too. So hard copy Jewish Reports will go to those 60 or 70 blocks of flats and townhouse complexes. Please wander down to your security guard and grab a copy in hard copy of the Jewish Report as well. So that's getting all in fact, the housework out of the way. And with that, I'd like to introduce you to an amazing panel this evening. First of all, most importantly, the person who will be hosting the panel this evening is Sean Mattison. Sean is a director of the Jewish Report newspaper. In his day job, he's deputy CEO of the Vitality Group, which looks after vitality in South Africa and 28 countries around the world, Sean?
24, Howie, 24.
24 countries around the world. So if you missed your gym membership, if you didn't get your steps today, you have Sean who will hold you to account this evening, and he will be looking after the entire panel. And then we've gathered some of the most remarkable people involved in stress and anxiety and trauma, and we've put them all on a panel together this evening to be able to assist you. So very quickly, Sean will be talking lots to these people tonight, but just very quickly, there's probably no one better known in trauma counseling in Johannesburg than Leanne Stillerman. You'll see on her screen, she's called Leanne Zabo. That's a married name, but we'll be calling her Leanne Stillerman this evening. And she's a specialist and an expert in trauma therapy. Hanan Bushkin. Hanan is an expert in both trauma and anxiety and is in private practice, as is Leanne. Cheryl Cohen specializes in kids therapy and parent-child therapy. Great to have you on board. And Richard Sutton is one of those people that really needs almost no introduction. He is famous for all the work that he's done in mental health, in stress, and how to achieve a winning mindset. So guys, a fantastic panel. Thank you all so much for agreeing to do that. And with that, Dan and I are going to fade into the background, and just very quickly, we will be monitoring the Q&A buttons at the bottom of your screen. So you'll see at the bottom of your screen, there's Q&A and there's chat. If you want something to go to everyone, just comment, use in fact the chat functionality. But if you'd like to pose a question to Sean and the other panelists, please use the Q&A button that you see at the bottom of the screen. No one else except the panelists can see the Q&A, and you have the option of being anonymous in the Q&A section as well. So questions to the panel Q&A, general chatter to the chat button. And with that, Dan and I, sorry, Dan, you had one thing to say?
Yes, Howie, sorry, just to add to that in terms of Q&A, if you are watching on YouTube live, unfortunately, you're not inside the Zoom room, inside the Zoom webinar, but there's still comments on the side of the YouTube live video or underneath it, and I'll be monitoring that. So I've got that in another window. So if you do have any questions, I know there are about 150 people watching through YouTube live. So if you're watching the live stream, post your questions there and I'll feed them through to Sean. If you are watching the recording, obviously we can't take your questions. So cool, we're going to turn off the video and sound.
Great. Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Howie. Welcome, everyone, and thanks to the panel. So as everyone said, please feed through the questions, through the Q&A. This panel is here. I'm just going to facilitate it to try and answer things that are on your mind. We've done some thinking beforehand, and Richard kindly facilitated a survey. We've already got nearly 400 responses to that survey, which is giving us and the panel a real sense of what people are feeling, which I think will be incredibly valuable as we work our way through some of the real issues. So to start, I thought the place we'd start is just to take a little, I know we want to get into it, and we're all feeling the issues of COVID and lockdown, and we really want to focus the discussion on real issues that we're facing and what can we do to deal with those problems. But before we get into some of the issues and some of the solutions, we just wanted to take a step back and just give the panel a chance to set the scene and just give us a sense of how we got to where we are, what we should be feeling, and just create a bit of a framework for the discussion. So I'm going to ask Richard if he can go first and just also give us a little bit of an insight into some of the data that we got from the survey earlier today.
Thanks so much, Sean. So I think that it's fair to say we are experiencing unprecedented levels of stress. When the United Nations compares this time in history to the Second World War and the implications of the Second World War, I think we have to stand up and take notice. And I think it's no one's immune to it. And I think so many of us are worried about things that are beyond our control. So many of us are worried about our financial futures, the economic future, our health, the health of our families. And it's a very overwhelming set. And I think that's why we've arrived at this panel at this particular time. And what's interesting is that we've actually, in the scientific literature, we've been prepared for this. For the last 70 years, scientists have been investigating the causes of stress and the effects of stress. And the really big milestone in understanding stress came about through a series of studies in the UK that basically evaluated 30,000 people over 40 years. And what they found was the primary driver in stress in our lives is when we feel no control. And to get to the survey, so we had 400 people engage in the survey, which was incredibly valuable. And the prevailing sentiment at the moment is that people feel out of control. They feel that their world that they once knew doesn't exist anymore. They don't know when this is over, what they're going to see following this event. So I think that element of a lack of control is the primary driver of stress, and the lack of control drives fear as well. But another thing that presented within this data set from the UK was the fact that another major stress in our lives is an effort-reward imbalance, where we feel we've worked so hard to achieve a certain set of outcomes, and the minute we arrive there, everything is suddenly different. And everything we've worked for up until this point might not exist in the future. And that was the second thing that showed up in the survey, is that what people are really stressed about is this effort-reward imbalance. What is happening to my future? Where am I going in my future, despite the fact that I've put in so much effort to get to this point? And the last real prevailing issue at the moment, and it was quite surprising to me, was the level of within the community of reporting high demands. People's demands have increased. We take this view that going into this isolated environment, just being with our families, connecting, is almost a sanctuary. But with it has come increased demands, whether it's managing home and family and work and the circumstances that we're confronted with. Demands have reared their heads. And demands in this context lends itself to emotional exhaustion, burnout, fatigue, mental health challenges, physical health challenges. So that was really the set that came in from the analysis, from the survey that we did earlier on today, which is a very powerful bit of information.
Richard, thanks. And maybe that's a good segue to Cheryl, just to give us a bit of a perspective to build on Richard's thoughts, but also to bring in some of the family and children issues that people should be, that have brought people to where we are.
Absolutely. I think that this is an unprecedented experience, which is very hard because we don't have historical hooks on which to hang our experience. And there's a tremendous, all relationships are based on expectations, they're based on boundaries, and there's a collapse often of those expectations. There's a collapse of boundaries. There's often a collapse of roles in relationships that we take or that we did take. And now we have to redefine what those expectations are at home. We have to redefine the relationship expectations. We have to redefine the boundaries. We have to redefine also sometimes the way in which we implement the day. And for me, that represents a tremendous amount of, I think the overwhelming word for me is change. And in change, there's always loss and gain. And for us, there might be a bit of both, and for our children as well. So there might be a tremendous loss in that you're not necessarily, you don't have the children out the house for part of the day. There's a loss of identity. There might be a loss of certain roles that you took before, but there's also could be a tremendous gain. And that might be for children, for example, the gain of not having to wake up early, the gain for some children of not having to go to school. And for me as a developmental psychologist, one that looks at the process of growth throughout the life cycle, I would say that the key is getting a good balance between the losses and the gains, and to be able to sit with the complexity of experience, the complexity of emotion that comes with that. And Richard really did speak about this loss of control. And I think we try sometimes to defend against the difficult feelings that come with the loss and the gain by seeking control. I mean, buying all that toilet paper, honestly, we don't use the bathroom more during lockdown than in any other time of the year, you know. So we kind of create opportunities for control. And is that the way we want to gain mastery and control, or is there a different way? And that's hopefully what we'll open up to discuss tonight.
Okay, Cheryl, fantastic. Maybe Leanne, if you could build on that with some of your thoughts.
Thank you. Thank you. I think this is a unique situation where we're talking to over 1,000 people about a shared experience that's impacting all of us. For many other world crises, we've been able to locate them in other socioeconomic groups, other parts of the world, and this has touched all of our lives, from something that sounded distant in China to something that's now on our doorstep. And I think it's really challenged our ability to compartmentalize. Often we know that there's suffering in the world, but we can block it out and focus on our little worlds. And now we've got this acute awareness of what's going on in the broader external world, as well as what's going on in our own intimate homes. So there's this reverberation all the time between the external and the internal, and shuttling between the feelings aroused by both of those. I just want to touch on a couple of things that you may be feeling. The first one, I've heard a lot of people use the word surreal. You leave the house to buy a loaf of bread and you want to pinch yourself that are you dreaming that people are walking around in masks, the streets are deserted? And I think it doesn't fit our cognitive map of the way the world is. The psychoanalyst Melanie Klein talks about how there's an impulse to know about the world. That's part of why children play, to learn about the world. And all of a sudden, the world is not as we know it. And I think perhaps that's part of why we've consumed huge amounts of social media and news media, is just to learn about this new order that is a temporary order, but is impacting all of us, to try and know what to expect, because we all have a script that for certain events. It's a stressful event if you get a flat tire, but you kind of know how to manage it. But the new order and the new challenges that face us, we've all had to expend a lot of energy trying to get our head around that. I also think that we're facing an invisible threat, something we can't see, and that makes us feel out of control. So that can lead to hypervigilance, to feeling freaked out when you visit the shops. I've heard many people say they woke up with a headache or a scratchy throat and felt convinced that they had the coronavirus. So I think we all feel a sort of heightened paranoia, heightened vigilance. And I think we're also sitting with a lot of what I would call anticipatory anxiety. the impact hasn't hit us yet. We don't know if it's going to be better for us because we had more time to plan than Italy, or if we're facing a crisis of devastating proportions. So there's a sense of not knowing. And I also think we're facing a sense of preemptive grief, that a lot of people have said, is it fear or is it grief that we're facing about the different losses that may be experienced? So sometimes when tragedy hits, we feel and we express our solidarity and we commiserate, but we know what we're dealing with and we can digest it and process it. And now we're preemptively feeling and trying to figure out what it is that we're going to face. So I think that that's hard. I also want to say something quickly about anxiety. You know, the physiological arousal when we face a threat is adaptive. It helps us to face a threat. But I think, and some of us like a challenge, but I think when one feels very anxious is when one feels one doesn't have the resources to cope with the threat, as if the external threat overwhelms one's resources. And I think that many people are talking about control, or what I would call a sense of agency. And that's very important when we work with trauma survivors, is helping them feel a sense of agency and mastery over their situation rather than helplessness. So hopefully that will come up more through the panel, is how can you, in this difficult situation and this overwhelming situation, experience a sense of agency in your own world and also in the broader world. So those are just some preliminary thoughts, but I hope to speak to your more specific questions as we proceed.
Yeah, and thanks. And I think it's a great segue to Hanan, who really specializes in dealing with anxiety. And I suppose two macro themes that we want to cover. One is anxiety, and the second, I think, is isolation. So to kind of build on this idea of anxiety, Hanan, if you could give us some of your thoughts, that would be very helpful.
So we hear in the media, we turn on the TV and we get all these, all the professionals telling us exactly how to manage this on a practical medical level, you know, from social distancing to the hygiene to the sanitizer that we all use all the time. But there isn't much information out there on how to deal with this on an emotional level. And we woke up on one morning and it was no longer their issue. It was no longer Italy's issue. It was no longer America's issue. Now it was our issue. And one thing about going through this kind of stress is that whilst we can understand it, we can understand what 21 means. We can understand what days mean. We can understand what lockdown means. But we can even understand what 21-day lockdown is, but the experience of it is completely new. We've never experienced anything like this, and we've entered into a world that is completely unknown. We've entered into a hurricane. But the biggest message that I want to send across is that even within a hurricane, you can still find elements within it that you can control. And the moment you can find elements within the hurricane that you can control, you will live in a controlled state, in a state where there's no anxiety, where there's no stress, where you feel in control.
And thanks. So control is clearly a big theme we're going to come back to in a moment, but just to maybe deal with a few of the specific questions that are coming in. And once again, thank you for all your questions. This is Cheryl for you specifically. Someone anonymous, their daughter of 10 is suddenly not able to sleep. She says she's not anxious about anything, but clearly the author of the question believes there is something corona related. What advice can you give to her?
I think that sleep is a very clear indication of anxiety, and it's about often separating from what is known as compared from a known space to being kind of to letting go. So there's often a stress for children in letting go when they are feeling anxious. And sometimes it's hard for children to isolate that feeling and give it a name or give it a word. And I think that it's a very good idea for parents to label that particular feeling of what the child might be going through. Because as Hanan was saying, and the other panelists, is that giving a sense of control verbally gives an opportunity to gain mastery or control over the emotional experience. And sometimes we can't change the facts. I mean, in this situation, we certainly can't change the external circumstances, but we can certainly give a child an opportunity for gaining mastery and control over some of their emotional experiences. And I'm not saying, this child is obviously saying, I'm not feeling anxious. So what is the child feeling? What is the goal of this child's behavior? Is it that they don't want to separate from you? Is it that they're feeling a bit maybe uncertain, unsettled? What's the actual label of the feeling? And if we can do that, then we're giving the child in emotional terms some sense of mastery, where in practical behavioral terms, we can't do that, you know, in terms of circumstances.
Cheryl, can I just add to that? The nice analogy that I use is, imagine you're flying at the back of the plane and the captain in the front of the plane, you hear him over the speakerphone freaking out over turbulence. We're going to die. What's going to happen? We don't know. While you're sitting at the back of the plane, you're going to feel incredibly anxious and incredibly out of control. Well, your children are sitting at the back of the plane and you're flying the plane. And if you're going to feel out of control, they're going to feel your energy. Now, they might not have the emotional intelligence or the intellectual maturity to actually understand what's going on, but they feel it. And if you're going to feel out of control, well, they certainly will feel out of control. It's not about lying to your children. It's not about telling your children there's nothing going on, the plane is fine. It's about being honest with them, but everything is going to be okay. I'm in control. And the moment the pilot's in control, the children can sit in the back seat and just enjoy the ride.
And thanks. So maybe just to, I think, build a little bit on that point and to go back to something you raised earlier, Leanne, and we've had a specific question. So how do you actually get the sense of agency? How do you master it? And maybe to Hanan's point, how do we pilot the plane in a very controlled way?
Yeah, thank you. I think the one thing I want to say is, I don't want the audience to feel under pressure, to feel in control and a sense of agency. I think we all feel vulnerable. And on the one hand, we need to experience a sense of agency, and I will speak to the question that Sean has posed. On the other hand, existentialist philosophers would have us think that the human state is a vulnerable state, and we need to be able to sit with uncertainty. This is an extremely uncertain situation, but uncertainty and being able to tolerate not knowing is part and parcel of the human experience, because while we are the most intelligent beings on the planet, we are also vulnerable. So I think we need to be able to tolerate that and still contain our children with that, still pilot the ship while not having a perfect Google map about what's coming in front of us. In terms of agency, Chief Rabbi Jonathan Sachs gave a YouTube interview that I watched, and he posed a question which I think would be posed by Viktor Frankl, where he said, "What does this moment ask of me?" We can think a lot about the external world and politics and what politicians are doing and what epidemiologists are saying, but what does this moment ask of me? And one of the things that I've noticed is people's altruism, people's generosity, people's reaching out, this flooding of empathy, of feeling for other people that are going to be impacted by this crisis. So if you can see what is within your sphere of control, I think that's important. The other thing that somebody said to me the other day is, one of the things that struck her is that people have said, your children are going to remember what their climate at home was like during this lockdown. And that helped her to focus inward on the climate in the home. So I hope that helps a bit in terms of thinking about what can we do to contribute to others in this crisis. This is a good example. Having an online event where you bring community into people's homes is an initiative that is born out of a crisis like this.
Can I just add to Leanne's point, because she mentioned Viktor Frankl, and I'm a big fan of Viktor Frankl. And Viktor Frankl was, for those of you who don't know, he was an Austrian Holocaust survivor, and he wrote many books, over 30 books, and one of the most famous one is Man's Search for Meaning. And in his book, he witnessed that a lot of physically strong men emotionally didn't cope, while physically weak men emotionally coped. They were able to survive emotionally through the horrors of the Holocaust. And you want to know what was the main difference? How come what was the common denominator amongst the ones that did cope? And he found that the ones that did cope had a greater sense of purpose. They knew that they were going to get out. They knew that they're going to see their families again. And he tells a story where you watched families being led into the gas chambers, knowing that they were going to die, but on the way there, they were singing and dancing. And he said everything can be taken of a man except his right and his will to choose his own attitude. No one can take that away from you. The universe can bind your hands, the universe can bind your feet in an unchangeable environment. No one can choose the attitude that you have to any given situation. And in this uncontrollable environment, let's focus on the things that you can control and let go of the things that you can't.
I'd
I'd
like
like to add, oh, sorry, after Cheryl.
just to say that, yeah, I wanted to add to that and say that it's very normal for children to regress when there is a change of temperature in the family home environment. And this is the way in which they express through their bodies how they experience their emotions and their feelings and their thoughts, actually. And often what I feel happens is that children look for what's called psychic equilibrium. In other words, they want to be able to balance the gains and the losses. And for example, we might do the same and say, oh, I wish this and this, I bought this and this and this before lockdown. Or, oh, I wish I'd had this and this, you know, spoken to that person. I wish I would have taken it seriously, and whatever it might be. So sometimes we give in fantasy what we can't have in reality. And sometimes this is a wonderful tool or practical tip to give over to children of what do you miss from your old life? What life was like last week, Wednesday, is very different to how life is today on Thursday. What do you miss? What do you wish for? What do you think has been the gain and what has been the loss? So if we can help to edit the experience for our children in a way that creates psychic equilibrium, then we give them the opportunity to gain a greater sense of control and mastery and not be overwhelmed by the vulnerability and the helplessness, which will lead them to regression.
I wanted to add to what Cheryl said in terms of the importance of developing an emotional vocabulary. So we're all facing new emotions that we haven't faced before, mixed emotions. Sometimes we don't even know why we're feeling what we're feeling. And to name emotions for ourselves and to name emotions for children, to help children name their emotions, makes them more containable. And I think Cheryl also spoke in her intro about holding the different complex emotions, whether it's despair, hope, fear, loss, grief. We need to be able to tolerate and name those emotions in order to help our children to do that, and not to feel that emotions are scary or too much. It's very normal to be feeling a roller coaster of emotions at a time like this. So it's about creating an environment where one can talk about the things that are going on.
Leanne, thanks. I want to move the conversation to Richard for a moment. One of the questions we've had, Richard, is it built on what we've been saying, but we don't know how long lockdown is going to last for. We don't know how long COVID's going to be able to last for. We don't know when our lives are going to get back to normal. What's your advice for people out there?
So I think that's one of the biggest fears. And there was an amazing study, and it was published about 2 months ago, and it was looking at the implications of quarantines and social distancing. And it basically evaluated several thousand studies and sifted it down to 24 of the best studies on social isolation and quarantine, and what the implications are on our psyche, on our well-being, on our health, and our futures. And some of the points that came from this meta-analysis was the fact that we can experience post-traumatic stress disorder, and it's a very common symptom for a period of up to 3 years. But talking to everyone's points here, there was a lot of things that came out that we've really been starting to engage in and discuss. And one of those things were the fact that when in quarantine, we start stewing over, when are we going to get out of this? Is it going to be another quarantine? When is this whole epidemic going to pass over? And that in itself becomes an additional stress. Then you've got the boredom factor, the isolation factor, the misinformation. We're so desperate to know what's going on. We'll accept any bit of information, no matter where it comes from, as long as it suits where our psyche is at that point in time. So social isolation, social distancing and quarantines have their own set of stresses that really can spiral our health into a negative place, our emotional health, our physical health, our mental health. This is one of those considerations. Now, with respect to what do we do about it and where we're going with this and what are my thoughts on it, we really have two stories here. We have the story of buffering, and that's what everyone's talking to now. How do we buffer it for our families? And that's a big responsibility. In a sense, it's a great responsibility, but it's also a burden for us when we're in a position of fragility. And the second story that we have to ask ourselves is, what are we going to do about ourselves? We're confronted with the same circumstances. We have the same fears. And yes, we are masking them in front of our friends and family, and we're pretending that everything is perfect and fine. But how do we cope with our immediate set of circumstances while at the same time buffering the negative effects of everything that's going on around us? And there are really two pieces here. And the first is that leadership piece, is that we can't control the events we've been confronted with, but we really can control ourselves. And this is our time to lead and shine. It's a very difficult time in human history, but it's a very opportunistic time to bring out character and everything that we've been working to up until this point in our lives. This is the time to tap into all our strengths and all our experiences and really be the best version of ourselves so we can be the buffering system for others. So that's point number one. The second point is, how do we reinforce this even when we're feeling fragile, even when we feel our immune system is compromised, when we feel our emotional state is not well? What do we do? And it's really about deconstructing it into various pillars of priority. The first pillar, and I think everyone's been talking to that first pillar, is this reframing, seeing it differently. And seeing it differently doesn't just affect us on a mental and cognitive level. It affects us on a biological level. Our cardiovascular responses are different. Our blood pressure is altered. We have these immense protections. But when we see things differently, we also have alterations in our neurochemistry. So if we see an experience that is difficult as an opportunity to move forward, and the stress response, the anxiety, the palms sweating, the heart racing, the respiration increasing, we see that those biological symptoms, that's set as the body saying, I can do this, I will get through this, just give me the opportunity to do that. It actually changes our neurochemistry and our biological set to such an extent we are vastly protected from the adverse effects of stress on a physical level and emotional level. The second thing is really part of that buffering story is, how do we tap into a system that has a protective effect, not just on our friends and family and close and loved ones, but how does it protect ourselves? And that system really, if we dive back and we go into our chemistry and our biology, that system exists. We were given a gift, and we were given a gift of the ability to adapt and overcome any circumstances, no matter how harsh and how hostile. The first gift was the stress hormones, the cortisol and the adrenaline, that make us hypervigilant. And that creates a lot of the depression and anxiety in the first place. But at the same time, we're also handed a gift of a hormone called oxytocin. And it's a hormone that has an incredibly strengthening effect. It reduces inflammation, it has antioxidant qualities. It makes us feel fearless. It makes us feel empathetic. It connects us and we become compassionate. And we need to tap into this hormone. And how do we tap into this hormone? By doing exactly that. The more we connect with people, the more we share our experiences of the stressful events, the more charity we give, the more compassion we show, the more empathy we show. These are the ways we tap into the system that ultimately will protect us on a biological level from these very difficult times and very difficult circumstances. So those are two set points. But then knowledge again is power. And with this knowledge, it's one thing to say, okay, I'm going to change my mindset, even though it goes against my very nature. I'm going to change my behavior, even though my very nature is, when in crisis, to introvert and to hide until I feel stronger. I'm going to change that. Why? Because I know there are benefits associated with it for me and for others. But what happens if you feel overwhelmed and you just can't control it? The body is ingenious. Hashem gave us a gift, and that gift was an off button for stress. There's a biological switch that we can turn at any time we want to that will down-regulate this over-arousal caused by stress hormones. And that system is known as the vagus nerve. It is the off button for stress. It creates biological balance, biological calmness, biological tranquility. And we can engage it anytime we want to. And this is where Nadine Hurwitz and yoga practitioner and Brendy Sundelson and where they're bringing in the meditation and the yoga and the breathing and the swimming and this type of work taps into the stress off button. But then last, we also have to understand that this all takes a toll, and we do get impacted hormonally. Our testosterone will drop, our estrogen will drop, our growth hormone will drop, our neurochemicals will downregulate, our serotonin, our dopamine, our norepinephrine, all these vital chemicals that keep us robust and keep us strong going forward. Stress, unfortunately, is going to have a negative effect. And what can we do in our lives to rebuild this during this ongoing crisis? And that really speaks to exercising regularly, watching one's diet, taking nutritional supplements, getting into the sun if you have an opportunity, just basically doing those positive lifestyle practices. And that is really about whether we're in this for 3 weeks, whether we're going to have this rolling indefinitely till the end of the year, until the vaccine is created and found. It's hard to say. But what we have to do is we have to put in a strategic plan. We have to put measures in place where we say, we're going to be the best version of ourselves so that we can be the best version of ourselves to protect others. Because our role in our families, in our communities, for our friends, is to create as much buffering as possible.
Richard, thanks. There's a lot to take in there, and I'm sure everyone else will build on that. But maybe two questions that we've got here in the Q&A. One is from Adam asking for answers, which I think you did, Richard, in layman's terms, so really giving people stuff that they can use. But then maybe to go back to a theme which to a certain extent you touched on, and I don't know if Leanne or Hanan want to answer. We spoke about this idea of trauma and grief. And so Michael has asked that people are potentially experiencing real trauma right now. So how do they deal with it? Some of them don't know how to ask for help. Maybe if we can build on that idea. Leanne, Hanan?
Okay, so let me start. I usually give the analogy that life is like pushing a boulder up a mountain. Sometimes the mountain is this steep and you feel, oh my God, this is really, really difficult. Sometimes it's like this and you go, I've got it. Sometimes it's downhill and you go, this is really easy. On the one side of the mountain, there are people, places, things that pull your energy away from you. There are the people that tell you that you can't do it, you're a loser, stop, quit. On the other side of the mountain, there are the things and the people that build up your energy. Those are the people that tell you just one more step, you can do it. Now, the trick is now, whilst the mountain is literally this steep, and at some point we all want to go, well, maybe we can't. We have to plug into the people, places, things that give us that energy. The people, places, things that build us up, that build our character. The common denominator between me, you, everyone, Bill Gates, and a homeless person is that we all have the same number of hours in the day. 24, we all have 24 hours in the day. But the difference between Bill Gates and a homeless person is Bill Gates invests his time into things that create much greater value. We have 24 hours in the day minus 8 hours of sleep, so we've got 16 hours remaining. You want to be cognizant of where you invest your 16 hours. And my advice is to invest it into the people, places, things that create the most amount of value and things that you can control. So Richard has mentioned, so diet, exercise, sleep, you can control that. Your family, deepening relationships, friends, romantic partners, your relationship with the kids. Here's a brilliant opportunity, Cheryl can attest to that, where you can actually deepen a relationship like you can never do before. Religion, hobbies, self-development, relaxation, having meaning in the moment. Those are the things that you should plug into, and the majority of your day should be plugged into those things that build you up as opposed to things that withdraw your energy.
Thanks. So can I speak to that too?
Of course.
Okay, so there was a request for practical tools to cope with this really, really difficult time. And I think everybody is echoing the importance of connection with other people. We are in a state of social isolation, but ironically, there's a lot of connection going on in terms of family Zoom meetings that are unprecedented, Kabbalat Shabbat, conferences that are online. People are really trying to connect. So, of course, we learn in the Torah that it's not good for man to be alone. But we also learn, as Richard said, in the stress literature, that one of the hormones that counteract stress, which is oxytocin, is triggered by human relationships. So a very practical tool would be to have a WhatsApp video call with a friend or family member every day to make sure that we connect every day with somebody who's important to us. We usually use a skill of compartmentalizing. We all, the psychoanalysts would call it splitting. We can't we have to filter out information. We can't focus on a world crisis and our personal scenario all at once. And yes, we can't stick our head in the sand, but it is important to not feel guilty about having some enjoyment in one's life and in one's day despite the crisis. So there are a few other tips that are on my mind. They'll come back to me. I think it's also very important to because we want to feel in control, we're gathering vast amounts of information from the media, some of which is elevating our stress levels. We need to choose a reliable news source and follow that in terms of a good longitudinal analysis. We can't just expose ourselves to things that are going to spike our anxiety levels and that are sensationalized and decontextualized. Then there's also, we've been deprived of many of our distractions that I wouldn't call them distractions. I'd say things that engage us, things that give us pleasure, meeting friends for coffee, going to restaurants, going to movies. So that's really difficult. And what I've personally found really helpful, because you can go crazy at home all day with the monotony of just kids and home or lockdown or whatever it is for you. But to have a change in your day, I know it's hard if you're stuck in four walls, but for me, it's my online sessions with patients. It allows me to engage in a very different paradigm and connect in a very different way. So I wouldn't say it's about distraction. I would say it's about experiencing one's world differently. So yes, our options are narrowed, but you need to think about the kind of activities that you can do. I plugged into an online Limud session, conference, Limud North America, so I was able to listen to these wonderful speakers. For some people, they're doing online Zumba. You need to engage in something that is alternative to this constant humdrum of the lockdown. So I hope those are some practical tips, but I'd love to hear from the other panelists too.
Just before you get too far away from the support comment. So within the quiz that we put out, and I think it was over 400 respondents, and we got some, as I said, very, very valuable information. But the one primary stress that was picked up by these UK studies known as the Whitehall studies was a lack of support and a lack of connection, that being a major driver of stress. We know that, we understand that. But there's a big compliment that I want to give here, and that is, as a community, it didn't show up at all. Support was front and center within the evaluation that everyone did, yet support wasn't a major stress. There's a complete outpouring of support. We are very connected, we are very galvanized, we're very united in this time as a community and probably beyond the community. And I think we got to also draw from the positives. We often focus on all the changes that are negative, but there's been some positive additions to our lives. Sometimes it's been in connections, improved relationships, more time with the kids. So some of those connections and some of those changes or shifts have been profoundly impactful, will be impactful for many years to come. But just to get back to that point, that support is so important and so critical and so protective in so many different ways. And the one thing we are doing exceptionally well right now is support.
So Cheryl, if I can move to you. On the one hand, there is that support, but we've had a specific question from Gillian about children feeling a loss about not seeing their grandparents. Might be the other way around. But so how do you bring the support to kids, and particularly that disconnection they've had from important family people in their lives?
I think it has been a big loss, and as I think absolutely right, as Richard says that, and this question Gillian has asked, is that there's both a combination of mixed feelings of, on the one hand, there's a gain, and there's a tremendous amount of maybe joy in being with parents, having them all to yourselves. But then there's this horrible loss of not being with grandparents and not having that touch and the actual face-to-face contact. And what I found in my work this last week, in working with parents mostly, and sometimes speaking briefly to children, is that the voice has become a very important tool to be able to connect. And I wouldn't take that away from children either, to find other ways to make that connection, to also build what we call introjects, which is an internal picture of a person inside your mind. So if I say to you, Sean, go buy your mom a present for her birthday, you'll be able to pick something out because you've got a picture inside your mind about what your mother likes, what she doesn't like, how old she is, etc. And children don't have that. They are building what we call introjects. They are building an internal picture of mommy, daddy, and other significant people in their world. And if we can create and facilitate the growth of those introjects by saying things like, can you make Granny or Boba a picture? And we're going to scan it to her. We're going to WhatsApp it to her. Let's play with Boba, maybe a general knowledge quiz online or whatever if they're old enough. So if you're doing something with Boba online, or if you're doing something for Boba alone, let's say your child is a preschool age child, then they have Boba in their minds about what they think Boba will like. And they can then build the relationship internally and not only rely on the external experience of having Boba there to touch and to hold her. So I think that's important. The other important point I wanted to add, if I might, is to say that I think that there's been a big change in identity. And one tip I would love for people to take away from tonight, if there's only one thing, is look for something positive that your children do at home. Wow, you made the most amazing breakfast. This was delicious. And describe what you see. Chaim Ginott talks about that a lot in his book, Between Parent and Child. In fact, Adele Faber and Elaine Maslish built a whole theory of how to talk so children can listen and listen so children can talk based on a 10-year parenting group once a week with Chaim Ginott. So they came up with this, and he came up with this lovely idea of using descriptive praise rather than evaluative praise. Instead of saying, oh, that's brilliant or well done, to describe what your children see and what they do. And the reason I say that's such a wonderful tool to use at this time is because children lose that part. All of us have lost part of our identities. If you were Josh's best friend at school and you both you were so good at climbing to the top of the jungle gym and sliding down really fast, you don't have that anymore. So now you're not the fastest bowler or batter or whatever it might be. Now children have to reestablish a sense of self. And the way to possibly do that is to identify something positive that they can do and label it. And even if the breakfast is on the ceiling, ignore the negative, focus on the positive and say, I love your exuberance. This is very creative. I love the way you put this picture together. So that for me would be a practical tip to take home at this time.
That's fantastic.
Sean, can I just add one thing?
Of course.
I want to just mention the whole concept of loss, because it's very, very important, especially now. The definition of loss is when your world goes from A to B quickly, and whilst your head can accept it, your heart isn't there. So your heart isn't willing to accept it. And healing is when your head and your heart meet at what it is, as opposed.
I've lost Hanan's sound. Is that?
Yeah, so have I.
Yeah.
Hanan, we've lost your sound. I don't know if it's your.
I think you might have Bluetooth earphones in. Maybe try turn off Bluetooth if you have Bluetooth. No, we can't hear a word.
Can I, while we're waiting for the sound to come back, can I just add something to this?
Please.
Is that one of the primary stresses was this concept of a lack of reward for our efforts. And the effort, it's really it's very broad. We assume that there's a sense of reciprocity. We put in a certain amount of effort and there's a certain commitment from us and we expect the same in return. And it's happened in our business lives and it's happened in many areas where all of a sudden all the efforts are not seeing returns. And we superimpose our emotional experiences on the people around us. So one thing that is very prevalent within our community is this fact that there's this effort-reward imbalance. And the interesting thing about the research is they've looked at an effort-reward balance, and it's not just simply, I give, therefore I expect back. It's so much deeper than that. It's all about looking at what's going to happen in the future. Are there opportunities for growth, for expansion in the future? That builds into an effort-reward balance. But the most important thing about an effort-reward balance is it's about appreciation. So when people feel valued and they have a voice and they feel appreciated, and that's talking to Cheryl's point there, is that you're building on, we've lost certain things in terms of this balance, but how do we compensate for it? How do we correct this? By creating more controls won't necessarily address that problem, but by showing more appreciation for our kids, for the people around us, for our friends, for our family members, showing how much they are valued in our lives, that can rebuild some of the losses that we have been incurred in response to these rapid changes that have taken place in our lives.
I just want to add one thing. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Go for it, Hanan.
This is just so important. We're going through a crazy, unpredictable world. The world has changed, probably never go back to the way that it was. And the brain doesn't like things that are unknown or unpredictable to us. So naturally, when we enter into a space where the world or our environment is unpredictable or unknown, we naturally get into a fight or flight. Fight the situation and get back in control, or get away from the situation and get back in control. But when we can't fight or flight, there's nothing we can do about our environment. We end up in an anxious state, and eventually for a prolonged period of time, we burn out. This is where we're at. So it's not about eliminating the anxiety. It's not about eliminating the stress. You know, if a patient came to see me and they said to me, Hanan, I'm running away from a lion and I'm anxious, I would say, good for you. Good for you. As a matter of fact, if you didn't feel anxious, there'd be a bigger issue. So it's not about eliminating the anxiety at this time. It's about managing it the best way we can until we do find ourselves in a situation that we can't control and we get back into a state of control.
Hanan, thanks. I just want to pick up on some of the questions, and a theme we haven't touched on is those people that are on their own, that are really suffering from real isolation. How do they deal with that if they're feeling totally alone, fears of perhaps getting the virus and being further alone? Maybe if we can just give some thoughts on that, please.
So I think we all know and we all understand that social isolation is probably one of the biggest triggers in negative health outcomes, a compromise of physical health, emotional health. That's a known phenomenon. And this is a group that I think that as a community we have to reach out to, and we have to connect with to the best of our capacity and our ability in the ways that we know. The thing for those individuals alone at home is the fact that this time that they have, sometimes we immerse ourselves in, whether it be Netflix, or we'll immerse ourselves in social media. And while that certainly passes the time, it doesn't build a sense of self-worth and self-esteem and confidence, and it doesn't fortify one's essence. And I think my advice under these very difficult circumstances is that there is this time in isolation. It is very difficult. We understand that there is nothing harder. I can vouch that. I've been there. I lived in China for 3 years. I was in total isolation for 3 years in Beijing. So I know that experience, and it was an incredible growth experience. And what I used to get through that experience was the opportunity for developing myself on a personal level, developing myself from a skills perspective. So where you can learn, where you can grow, where you can engage in just a development, a broader development, I'd say that has to be your focus. You have to channel all this time and sometimes these thoughts into a very positive construct. And if you can come out of this period, whether it's 21 days or that we go through more periods like this, if you can come out with a greater degree of wisdom, greater degree of skills, more insights, more self-development, more learning, I think that it would actually, the value would be almost immeasurable. And I think that is something that those individuals can focus on.
Oh, can I add to that? Can I add one thing? I think it's quite valuable.
Richard, thank you.
Okay. Can I add to that?
Yes.
So there's a big difference between meaningful distractions and meaningless distractions. So meaningless distractions is, people kill time with playing PlayStation or watching Netflix, and there's a space for it. But it doesn't make you better when you're done with it. Meaningful distractions are things that you do that add to your sense of purpose and develop you. You want to wake up three weeks from now or 2 weeks from now and be better than you were today. So think about the activities that make you better.
You can be a better father, a better husband, a better wife, a better daughter. Develop your skill set in your art or your culture or your career. Think about new ways of thinking outside of the box. Develop meaningful distractions.
So well said.
Hanan, thank you. Maybe if I can move the conversation onto a point that we're getting quite a lot of questions on, is the very real issue of financial anxiety. And for many people, this is financially very, very crippling. Any advice for people how to deal with that, how to focus this particular issue?
So I'll just jump in here. Well, certainly financial counseling is first and foremost. And I think there's a lot of people, excuse me, within our community that do offer these services, and to try and connect with them and connect them to people in a crisis. So that certainly is one thing, but it doesn't take away the fact that your business, your career, it might not be there after this 3 weeks. It might not be the same. It might not be at the same strength. One of my professional roles is speaking, and we don't speak at the moment. I mean, for obvious reasons. So there's this realization, but what I've drawn on a lot is the World Economic Forum's position on changes in the fourth industrial revolution, which really apply to this time. It's all about exponential change, non-linear change, and how it impacts the economy, and how it affects the labor market, how it affects our lives, and creates it creates skills instability, it creates employment insecurity, job insecurity. So there's this tremendous insecurity that has actually been in existence prior to this, and this has just amplified it. And what the position of the IMF and the World Economic Forum is if you want to put yourself in the most secure position, it's all about skills acquisition. You have to develop, it's learning, knowledge, skills. So now you've been given this time, and there are many uncertainties out there, but there's also a tremendous amount of generosity where people are offering educational pieces and educational platforms that are at no cost or reduced cost. And I think this is the opportunity to say, okay, well, the World Economic Forum, they've seen this a while back. Their recommendation is really about get yourself as skilled as possible. It's empowering, knowing that there's a certain extra value that you will offer. There's a new way that you'll be able to see the world, the business world, the professional world, your work environment. And I think that it's a very difficult question. I don't think anyone can really answer it. But I think the one thing that is true, and certainly one truth, is that the more skilled you are, the more educated you are, the more you understand the world, the more you can get out of this in a better position.
Yeah,
sorry, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's really difficult to address this because it's not a financial anxiety. For some people, it's a very real material reality that people are worried about being able to pay their bills. So we have to empathize with that. And I think the pain of this, what's made me really feel pain for people out there is, in order to protect human life, we are depriving people of the human right to earn a livelihood. And it's a very serious thing to be told you can't work. You're a hairdresser, you have to shut your salon for 3 weeks, 6 weeks, however long it's going to be. So I just want to express that empathy. And I think it's very important that the government and banks are offering certain financial relief offerings out there, whether it's debt holidays, if you've got a home loan that you can't afford to pay. I think people are going to have to dig deep to try and survive this. It's many of our worst fears, because we all want to feel this sort of sense of a safety net under us, that we can afford Pesach, that we can afford all our expenses coming up. So it's a very real anxiety, and we're going to have to dig deep and use our networks and use all the resources in order to survive this. And I think it's individual and it's national. I think as South Africans, we always have an inferiority complex that our country's already collapsing and we can't, how are we going to get through this? I mean, if we all get through this and we survive this, we will feel more resilient, but it is an incredibly painful thing to go through. And I just want to empathize with that. I also want to say, because a couple of people, sorry, I had a cheat look at the Q&As, and a couple of people have said, how do we get through the trauma now? We're traumatized. And I think it was Cheryl who mentioned that there's a couple of people offering free online sessions. And I would encourage people to take that up, because I think a space for yourself to express some of your fears and your anxieties is very, very valuable. So no easy answers to the financial thing, just that we're kind of being reduced to some of our most difficult fears and having to confront them and grapple with them and really dig deep.
Cheryl?
Yeah. I'd love to add to that. Obviously financial matters are far more adult-centered than child-centered. But what I'd like to add is that children are very self-centered. And when parents are consumed with the trauma and the worries that we're talking about, sometimes it makes them emotionally unavailable to children. And because children are self-centered, they'll think to themselves, what's wrong with me that my mommy's not talking to me, or my dad's is being ratty or irritable? And that's something that we've got to be aware of. And it's okay to say to children, I thought on the question and answers as well, it's okay to say to children, Dad's thinking about something else right now that's more about business than about you. It's okay to actually take responsibility and ownership of what that worry or feeling might be. I think it's okay for children to see that we're real and we're human, and we're giving them in that regard a model of how to deal with distress. And if we can deal with not knowing and stress, then hopefully our children will be able to deal with it also.
But just an interesting add. I mean, that kind of doesn't add value in terms of where we go and how we deal with it. But just something that I think it's good to be mindful of is one of the symptoms of financial insecurity and economic instability is physical pain. And there was actually a series of very interesting studies that were published in the States just after the financial crisis in 2008. And what they found, or what was found, was 100 million people in response to the financial crisis reported pain in 2008, and it completely subsided in 2010. So it's just very interesting that, you know, if you are starting to feel symptoms, neck pain, back pain, shoulder pain, elbow pain, wherever it might manifest, that there are these links, and it's actually linked to a region of the brain called the posterior cingulate cortex, the area that basically processes financial uncertainties and insecurity and basically where your future is. That area is also responsible for governing pain. So it's quite an interesting set, and it's good just to be, that self-awareness can be quite valuable.
Can I just add something that I think might be quite valuable? There are two things that you can really control in a given situation. The one is the effort that you put into your actions. And we discussed that plugging into things that create control. You create a blueprint for your day, a schedule you can control. And one thing that a blueprint does is it allows you to not bleed inefficiency. Imagine building a house with a blueprint. Imagine building a house without a blueprint. A blueprint allows you to act consistently with efficiency. But the second thing that you can control, as I was talking about Viktor Frankl earlier, is your attitude to any given situation. Now, in terms of the behavior, Richard was quite right. You've got to get financial counseling and let the person that knows create the blueprint. But that attitude to any given situation, I'd like to give an analogy that certainly has served me a lot, and it might serve you listening to this. Imagine you go to a fortune teller and you ask the fortune teller, how is this going to end for me? So the fortune teller looks at the crystal ball and she says, not good. The end is not good. You're going to leave that fortune teller completely freaked out, anxious, upset, disappointed, despondent. The second fortune teller looks at your crystal ball and goes, she gives you what we call a conditional attitude. She says to you, look, as long as A happens, you'll be okay. If B happens, you're no good. You're going to leave that fortune teller feeling incredibly anxious because, oh my God, I must make sure A happens. I must make sure B it doesn't. So I'll put all my energy into that. God forbid it's that. The third fortune teller says to you, it's all going to work out. So you say, well, how is it going to, what's going to happen? What's in the middle? What's going to happen to me in the middle? She says, I can't tell you what's going to happen to you in the middle, but I can tell you that it's going to work out. You're going to leave that fortune teller not worrying about the moment because you know it's going to work out. Now, it doesn't take away from the pain in the moment, but what it does, it ensures that you keep on moving forward one step in front of the other. Which fortune teller you believe, that is completely your choice.
And fantastic. Can I move on to a topic we haven't discussed, which has been raised in the Q&A, which is teenagers. How do you deal with teenagers who are uncommunicative, who cannot discuss meaningful and meaningless distractions and are spending more and more time on their phones? Any advice for people out there?
The teenagers are a whole different, I think at any other stage of life, if you behave like a teenager, you might be institutionalized. But since we know that it's developmentally appropriate, we welcome teenage responses to trauma. I think that there's one thing I want to say is that there's a tendency to want to try and control teens. And sometimes that ends up looking like surveillance. Surveillance of their apps, surveillance of their behavior. And there is nothing more damaging to relationship than giving them that complete lack of trust. I think it's about having a conversation with the teen in order to find out, to do like a weather report and to say, how are you feeling? What's the weather like? What's your internal weather like? What's been going on? What are your thoughts? What are your feelings? What are your behaviors? And coming up with some kind of strategy together in order to work through these next few weeks in a way that feels comfortable for both parent and child and teen.
Yeah, and I'd like to add in terms of this question of teens on screens, and sometimes there's a sort of a generation gap where parents think that screens are very, very bad. I think we need to also understand, under conditions of lockdown, that the screen is the teen's portal to their social world. So the whole virtual world of WhatsApp and Instagram, that is their socializing at the moment. At the best of times, it's also a large part of their social world. So sometimes conflict happens when parents demonize the screen, and you can't invade your teen's privacy, but you can take an interest. If your teen is making videos on TikTok, I know there's been controversy over TikTok, but you can take an interest in what they're doing instead of only seeing the negative. There is a negative to online activities, but there's also a lot of positive, a lot of exploration, a lot of opportunities that are opened to teens. And I also want to agree with Cheryl's point about the tendency to want to control teens, and they are wanting to individuate and express their own identities. So as a parent, it's a lot to tolerate, but you've got to keep the channel of communication open, and you've got to let them know that you're there, but not force the conversation. It's similar to a toddler. You've got to put out the food options, but you can't force. The latest research is saying you can't force them to eat this or that. They're trying to assert who am I separate to you.
Great, Leanne, thanks. So I'm going to move on to a different topic, which someone's asked, which is something that I think clearly people are thinking about. What do you do when a family member gets the virus, has to be hospitalized for a long period of time? You can't visit them. We hear stories about this from friends and family overseas. So maybe some advice for people thinking about that, and God forbid that actually does occur. What are the things people should think about? Cheryl, okay. I see you nodding. Hanan, sorry, go for it.
Okay, fine. So I live by a certain fundamental principle of not engaging or thinking about anything that I cannot control, anything that adds no value to me, or anything that has no definitive answer. So, and by the way, that includes social media, TV, news, because if there's nothing I can do about it and it's just going to deplete my energy, remember, I've got limited amount of energy. The energy that I feed into the news, or the energy that I feed into social media and the comparison game, that's the energy that I can't feed into my wife and into my kids and into my work and into my health. So do not engage even in thought in things that you cannot control, things that add no value, and things that don't have definitive answer.
Great, thank you. Any other thoughts before we move on?
I mean, I don't have an answer. It just sounds very punishing to be ill and not to be able to have visitors. I'm not familiar, because I don't know anyone personally who's been hospitalized under those conditions. I don't know. I mean, it's a really, really tough question. because we know that our sages teach us about Bikur Cholim, visiting the sick, and that it actually reduces the burden of the illness to be visited as a sick person. I think it's quite unique. I mean, any other contagious illness, no, not any other, but many other conditions, one can visit people. I think one is going to have to use the same channels of connection, of writing letters, of Zoom, of video calls, that others are using to cope with the isolation.
And I'd like to add to that, if that's okay. I read a very interesting study about how women respond to trauma. And I know Hanan mentioned, which was so relevant, about the fight and flight response, flight, fight and freeze response. And this study showed that women actually do mostly, that those studies focus mostly on men, and that women's main response was tend and befriend, which I thought was quite interesting. And I'm wondering if maybe tending is about releases the positive hormone, as Richard was saying, oxytocin, of also being able to give to others is very empowering in this feeling of tremendous helplessness. And I can only use my own experience, maybe because Pesach's looming, or because I've got a full household of people here, is that I've been cooking up a storm, freezing it, taking action, and my need to tend to others. Freezing stuff is a way of empowering myself to say, if anybody gets sick or anybody needs something, well, there's food in the freezer. I can't make it, but help yourselves.
Fantastic. I'm just going through my notes, and we are running out of time. So if you've got any questions, please do get them in. But the one thing we did promise to talk about, Richard, was the overdrive system. And if we can go back to that in case Howie gets me into trouble post the panel.
So as I think we've clarified that stress is an advantage in these type of situations because it helps you find solutions, it helps you adapt, it helps you cope with just the magnitude of issues that we're confronted with, and our bodies are primed in this state to overcome. Now, unfortunately, if this overdrive system is turned on for extended periods of time, the system that can protect us and once protected us will eventually cause our demise. And this is where we start developing stress-related health issues, physical issues, emotional issues, mental issues. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the body has this incredible backdoor, this way that if the normal rise of stress hormones is not interpreted in the brain correctly, and not shut down appropriately because it's been on too long and too aggressively, we can access another system. And this system is actually a very long and complex nerve system that connects the brain to most organ systems of the body. And when we engage the system, there's almost a biological correction that takes place within a period of 30 seconds. And in some instances, very rapid and very extreme. And I think that under these circumstances, under these conditions, where we are self-dialoguing, we're taking in all this valuable information and we're reframing the process, understanding it differently, seeing it differently. We also have to address, there is a very real physical element that we also have to manage. And if we tap into the system, we're able to address that and manage that very effectively. Now, in order to do this, there's many different channels. So one of the channels is yoga. So there's been 59 studies, high quality, 15 of them were exceptionally high quality, showing that the minute we perform a yoga class for a period of 20 minutes or longer, it will strengthen this response, this vagus nerve, and actually recalibrate our biological state. Another thing that we can incorporate is the application of cold water. Have you ever got into a situation where you feel overwhelmed, out of control, and you go into the bathroom and you splash cold water on yourself, or you suddenly crank the shower on cold just to gain some sort of calibration? Well, by doing that, we're activating the very same system, but through a different pathway. Another way of also engaging the system is just slowing down our breathing rate. So often when we feel overwhelmed and anxious, we say, just take a deep breath. And there's a reason for this, because we've got little receptors that reside in our heart and in the blood vessels of our neck that interface with the system. We've also got receptors that reside in our diaphragm area and in our lungs that interface with the system. And if we're able to do slow controlled breathing, basically 5 or 6 seconds in, 5 or 6 seconds out for a period of 4 to 12 minutes, we've literally turned off the biological state of stress. And there are many other techniques like submergence. If you have the luxury of a pool at home and you submerge your head underwater for a period of 10 to 30 seconds, that has an incredible recalibration process on the body by activating a reflex called the dive reflex. And I can go on to a list of many of these that include the physical therapies, the massage, the reflexology. But what we can access that costs almost nothing is our capacity to slow our breathing rate down. We can engage in some of the free yoga apps, and maybe some members of our community are offering free online classes. We can get into water. We can splash our face with cold water for a period of 30 or 40 seconds, which can really change our biological reality, and in doing so protect us from all the negative effects that are associated with this time that are not going to materialize now, that are going to materialize in months to come.
Richard, thanks. So we've covered a tremendous amount of ground, and I know it's getting late for everyone. Maybe if we can take the last few minutes of the conversation just to go around the virtual room and maybe take this opportunity to leave people with a few takeaways. So some key things from, top of mind, what you've heard and what you think people from the questions, what people are facing. Just if you could give a few minutes of your final thoughts of what people should focus on over the next 2 weeks of lockdown and the months ahead. Cheryl?
So I would say that it's very important to label mixed feelings for children and for yourselves. We've all heard about acknowledging happy, sad, or cross, or whatever it might be, but label the mixed emotion. Anxiety for children is very closely related to excitement, and maybe children feel both excited and anxious. So I would say that there's a complexity of emotion that comes with catastrophe, and we need to label that mixed emotion for them. The second thing I'd like to say is that it's important also to look for the good in what children do and in what you do, and to have a sense of accomplishment, a sense of purpose, and to label that and to celebrate it and to change the emotional temperature, as Leanne said, in the family by bringing positivity into the experience, however small that might be. And the last one I think I'd like to say is to make children feel safe, to stick to certain boundaries. Certain boundaries make children feel safe. There was an interesting study that was done in a field where children were told, 2 groups of children. There was one group that were told to go on the field and to play with the ball. No other instructions were given. And there was a second group that were told to go on the field, but that they weren't allowed to play outside of a demarcated fenced-in area. And they found that the children who had one rule of a demarcated fenced-in area used the whole space and got a game going. And the others with no rules actually fought. There was bickering, there was conflict, there was competition, there was no game. So stick to certain boundaries within well-defined age and stage expectations. And those are kind of the 3 tips that I have. And be gentle on yourself. Sometimes I think, just the last point, Sean, sometimes I think that if your children are alive and fed, you're doing well.
Cheryl, thank you. Leanne?
Okay, so I saw in the question something about meaning, and I think meaning is very individual as to what is the meaning for you. But one of the things, so I'll come back to the question of meaning, but one of the things I wanted to say, I watched a video by a psychoanalyst, Professor Don Carveth, and he said, when we regress to a fearful state, we sometimes feel like the crisis is going to go on forever. So I want to remind people that this is not going to go on forever. This is going to end. And then I also want to ask the question of hope. I've been toying with this question a lot. Am I being naive to hope that our lockdown will work, that we'll be different to Italy? I think we've got to grapple with ourselves and arrive at a mature hope, not a hope that is based in denial, but a place for a mature hope, whatever that means for us, a hope that's based on reality, even though we're not quite sure exactly how to apprehend the reality we're facing. That's what we have as a human race is the capacity for hope. I think people have asked, is the world going to change after this? I think we are more aware of inequalities. We're more aware how connected we are as a human race. My hope is that the world is going to change for the better after this, that our increased feelings of identification with our fellow human being, not having this us and them kind of feeling, and I hope that it brings about political good for our country where we've had strong leadership. So yeah, those are just some sort of positive takeaways that I have so far for myself from this crisis. But yes, whatever struggle that you have been facing internally is going to be amplified by this crisis. That's what crisis does, is it amplifies whatever's going on in your internal world. So that's why I would urge people, if you don't have the financial means, seek the free counseling service, because sometimes this just brings out inner demons, and those need to be faced and addressed, whether in a crisis or not. So thank you all for listening, and stay safe and healthy.
Yeah, and wonderful. Hanan?
So I've given this analogy before. Many years ago, I saw a show on TV with Bear Grylls. Bear Grylls is the survivor guy. He's the guy that shows you how to survive by eating bugs and creating wonderful things in the jungle and the desert. And he had one show where he was explaining how to survive in the desert, and he came across quicksand. And he dunked himself in, and he said, let me show you how to survive. He was shoulders deep. And he said, the misconception is that quicksand can actually drown you or suck you, and it can't. It's very thick mud. He said the worst thing that you can do when you're in quicksand is sit still. Because what happens, the mud around you dries up, it becomes cement, and it's much more difficult to move. You have to keep on moving. You have to keep on moving, keep on moving, keep on moving, keep on moving, keep on moving. And as you're keeping on moving, you get yourself onto a horizontal position, you let it crawl out. We are in quicksand. This is a very difficult situation, a very difficult environment. And my suggestion is to always keep on moving, even if you don't have the answer. The answer you'll get by keeping on moving. Moving towards what? Towards plugging into things that you can control, things that add value to you within this hurricane. Do not compete against anyone else. Social media will suck us in, the news will suck us in. Compete against a better version of yourself. As I said, wake up 3 weeks later and be a better version as a father, as a husband, as a wife, as a child, as a grandson. Learn a different skill set, but plug into things that you can control, things that add value.
Great. Thank you. Richard?
I think what we've experienced here and through Cheryl and Leanne and Hanan is the power of the mind in overcoming these obstacles. And within the survey that was put out a few hours ago, there was a resilience test looking at our ability to adapt and overcome challenges. And what I can say again is the community, they're setting a new benchmark. It was extremely high. I think average resilience is in the mid-70s. So we have got this capacity to thrive in adversity, to adapt and change. And I think that what my colleagues have really pointed out is just the strength of mind and how we can channel our mind in these outcomes. But what's also been presented here was the impact of our behavior in this time. We have a responsibility to buffer our families, buffer our children, buffer our community. And to a certain extent, as Cheryl points out, be kind to yourself, buffer ourselves. And on top of it, we're also at a time where knowledge is so accessible. We've got a vast amount of knowledge. So if we really want to tap into it, we're able to turn off stress at will through a variety of modalities and techniques. And we also have the ability to integrate very positive lifestyle practices that keep us strong and robust and healthy. So I think if we putting this formula together and then superimposing it by using this time to be exactly talking to Hanan's point is be the best version of ourselves, to grow, to upskill, to come out of this period saying, I can't believe I went in as this person and I've come out that person. I think that's what this time represents, and this is what we can achieve going forward.
Richard, thank you. So just to wrap up, firstly, a tremendously big thank you to the panel. You've all been amazing. If you following the chat, I think you've really provided people with a tremendous amount of value. A really big thank you to Dan and all the work he's done in the Excel Academy for making this happen, to Howie and the Jewish Report team, It's been amazing. I think what we've put out for the Pesach edition is an extraordinary achievement. And then a special thank you to my kids who gave up Jericho live on the internet to make sure we could keep the bandwidth maximized on this particular panel. So a big thank you to them. Thank you for everyone for listening. Howie, I don't know if you want to wrap up with any further comments.
Yeah, Sean, I just wanted to thank you so much for everything that you've done tonight. It's really been the most astounding panel. It's really been so informative. And I think so much value has been really gained. When we look at the numbers of how many people have stayed on or dropped off over really a 90-minute period, and you expect kind of half the people would drop off over that period, and people haven't. In fact, the numbers keep on going up. We've had about 600 people watching here. We've had about another 300 people watching on YouTube. We've been probably about 1,000 people busy watching tonight's broadcast. So you understand the value that all of you, all of the panelists, and you as facilitator, Sean, have brought to the people of South Africa. So thank you all. Just a final reminder, get and go download your Jewish Report newspaper at www.sajr.co.za. And the last thing I want to share is that please remember as well, Saturday night, 8 o'clock, please register for the family quiz night with SMD Technologies giving us the prizes to give away. And it's going to be a great family fun evening, something for you to do together, the entire family together. And let's have some great fun on Saturday night in the family quiz night. Tomorrow, we'll be sending out copies of this recording. Dan will be sending out copies of this recording. But can I ask the panelists as well? A lot of people in the chats have asked us whether, in fact, it would be possible to get your details or details of resources that potentially are available. I know Mandy Fortes has in fact offered free counseling. If you go to her Facebook page, you can contact her. She's offered free counseling. Their helplines, Hatzola has a helpline. I know that Chai FM have a helpline. I know you may have some resources that you would like people to read or apps that you'd like them to look at. If all the panelists could provide that to Dan, when he sends out the recording tomorrow to everyone who participated, let's include all of those resources as well. And let's make sure that we get through this impossibly difficult period, both safe and sanitized. So thank you all, and see you guys on Saturday night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Right.
Night.
I'm not going anywhere. Are you gonna, what?
Can we have a one-on-one consult
Yes.
now?
That's, I knew it. That's what you did it for. That's what you did it for. For free therapy session with me. I knew it.
There we go. There we go. You're not booked for 10 p.m.
I told my wife, Dan's doing this just to get a free therapy session. I knew it.
You've uncovered my mask.
Well done, Dan. That was power, man. Well done to you. Hey, really well organized.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Well done to you too. There were amazing comments coming through specifically to you as well. So people loved it. I see there's still 292 people here. So if you guys do, I don't know, Hanan, if you want to, if you want to stick around or if you've got somewhere to go.
This is not really a comedy show. Let's do the comedy show.
A comedy show. Oh, now I'm under pressure. You go first.
That was power. That was very good. I'm glad that we had that.
Actually, the last thing I'm going to mention now, it's a little bit late. I know that people are dropping off, but if you still feel like you have a question that is unanswered, then you can actually, and especially if you posted it in the Q&A and we didn't get to it, I know Sean was outstanding and he kind of got to pretty much everything, but you can post it in the chat now, because when I officially close this webinar, then it will download the whole chat, but it won't download the Q&A. So if you have anything to add now, I'm going to give you another like 2 minutes just to either copy and paste it or just to type it up briefly in the chat. If there's nothing in the next minute or two, then I'll officially wrap it up.
Thanks very much. That was power. Well done.
Cheers, Hanan. Take care.
Bye. You too. Bye.
Okay, Kim, thanks for the question. Candice, thanks for the question. Okay, guys, I'm going to give it about another minute. I see there's still about 200 people here. Just before we wrap up, if you have anything else to ask, just post it into the chat and I'll download the whole chat and pose those questions to the panelists. Okay, Amy, good question. I'm not sure who that was, but I will definitely pose it to the panelists. I'll give them a copy of all these messages that are coming through in the chat now. So thanks for asking. Cheers, Mark. Cheers, Stacy. Cheers, Lana. Cheers, PC. Don't know if those are your initials or your device. Okay, so PC, thanks for the questions on the medical panel as well. I'll follow up with that. Hello, Narelle. Hello, Bon. Steve, Dave. Hope you're well. Okay, Helena Hurwitz, we are going to be sending the link. It's actually very easy. All you do is you follow that same YouTube link. So it's YouTube live at the moment, but that will be just posted on YouTube. So it's that same YouTube link. You can watch the recording on demand anytime. Khoni G, thank you. Pon, you're not going anywhere. You're waiting for a show here from me. Dorian Will offering free online therapy. Okay, that's very good to know. So wellness under lockdown. Okay, I don't know who you are, but you've put your name as Wellness Under Lockdown. I think you must have thought that that was the name of the actual event. Okay, so you've said Dorian Will is offering free online therapy. That's good to know. Dave says, great show. Answer re-estranged children, please. Cool, that's Logic. Thanks for your question. Sharon Fingelson, thanks for your feedback. Karen Sher, great question. I'll pose it to the panelists. Trevor Sachs, great show, thank you. Just looking through the Q&As here. Leonard, thanks for your message in the Q&A. Anonymous, please fix bug. I signed up about 3 times. That's a good point. You are able to sign up more than once, which can be a bit of a problem. Anonymous says in the Q&A, my book, Close the Doors and Windows. Okay. Anonymous also says, love to get an answer re-estranged children. I'm just reading in the Q&A, which you guys can't see at the moment. Gina, good point. Gina Wolf, if you are still on the call, if you can please post that in the chat. Okay, you've asked for there to be a repeat. So for this panel to be online again in about 10 days or so to retouch base again. Okay. Okay, so let's see. Okay, recorded link, Anonymous, thanks for your question. We will be sending the YouTube link. I can actually send it here if those of you are still here. Okay, so let's copy the link. Okay, I've put it in the chat. So those of you who are still sticking around and you want the YouTube link, you can find it in the chat there. Sue Rogoff, thank you so much for your great feedback. Outside of home, no touching, handshaking allowed. Steve, okay, we can go straight into an Excel crash course. I see Barney wants to learn about an X lookup. So I can share my Excel screen now and we can go straight into that if enough people are keen. In fact, Avi, my partner in crime, partner in Excel, is actually the X lookup fundi. So he's not on the call right now, but I can call him up and I can add him as a panelist and we can talk about X lookup if you want. Barney says, let's upskill, let's take the opportunity. I say let's sleep. Look at these bags. These are like dustbin bags under my eyes. So it's definitely not time to upskill. Sue Rogoff, don't worry. I see that your message was split into 2, but it's all good. It's not a problem. Stacey Kretzmer has her hand up. I can bring you onto the panel. Stacey, would you like me to bring you up onto the panel? Okay. If anyone wants to jump on the panel and share their thoughts, I'm willing to bring somebody up onto the panel. Still 82 people sticking around. No one's going anywhere. Okay, any other questions coming through on the chat? Anything else that anybody? Okay, Karen, I have made a note of your question. Okay, let's see what else there is here. Colin, thanks for the feedback. You should get more speakers like Samantha Lapidus for social media and Gary Allen for motivation talks. Great stuff. Thank you for the feedback. I'll definitely take notice of that. Okay, so PC is asking about any other courses besides Excel. Okay, good question. We actually recently ran a webinar. How I kind of found myself into this whole kind of webinar Jewish report game is 2 weeks ago. I hosted a free live webinar and the recording is available. So I'll post the link to the recording on how to teach via Zoom. So those of you who are interested in that, I can actually share the link right now. Okay, for all the recent recordings, you can go here. Okay, for all recent recordings. That in the chat. So if you go to that page, then you'll see that there's a free webinar recording of how to teach via Zoom. Okay, where I share some of the techniques that we use to set yourself up on Zoom and to host a successful webinar, well, to market the webinar and make sure that people arrive, and then to teach via a webinar, as well as to sell your products or services during or at the end of the webinar. So other courses, okay, good question. We don't offer PowerPoint, but we do have an Outlook productivity course. Okay, so that's called Outlook Secrets, and that is available online. All of our material is online. So if you are interested or anyone you know, you will be glad to know that our workshops and our training is lockdown friendly. Okay, so if anyone is interested, you get up and running via, and my mom is taking a selfie here. You get up and running, we get you up and running via a live Zoom webinar, and then we activate your profile and you can log in and do the course in your own time and at your own pace during lockdown and beyond, and you get lifetime access. So that's how we're running our business. Okay, Milton Lutrin. I don't know if that is the real Milton. Okay, it is Milton at lutrin.co.za. Would you like to come up onto the panel, Milton? You can post in the chat. I can bring you up onto the panel. Barney, would you like to come onto the panel? Let's see who is here. It's actually quite fun. I see Cheryl Flexers here, Charmaine Lurton. Wow. That's Charmaine Lurton. Wow, Charmaine Lurton is still here. Wow, amazing. Okay, we've got, let's see who else I recognize. Okay, we've got Hadassah, we've got Jeffrey Rink. Tuning in from Hout Bay. Thank you for watching, Jeffrey. We've got Kevin Aaron, the Caro, Kevin at My Caro. Shout out to Kevin. We've got Louise Her. Hello, Louise. And Dr. Ron. We've got Linda Levitas. We've got Lana Snoyman. We've got Barney still here. We've got Nikki Mandel. We've got Ricky Block. We have Rona Lansky. Maybe that's Benji Lansky's mom. We can play all sorts of Jewish geography over here. We got ZS Robin 123. Salome, not sure. It's like a bit of a cryptic puzzle sometimes to figure out who's who here. We got Sherry Levy. We've got Sarah Benjamin, Sharon Tates, Shelley at Peerless Travel, Stacey Crest. Oh, Vivian Fox, Aunt Viv is still here. Big shout out to Aunt Viv. Okay, we've got Warren Goldstack and who else is here? Zoom Picasso. Let's see if anything else is happening in the chat. Okay, Lana Snoyman says, okay, great. Thank you for that. So I will definitely share that with the panel. Okay, I'll actually share a resource that I find very useful for those of you who are still here. I don't like watching the news too much in this time, unless it's Cyril, because he makes me proud to be South African when he's giving one of his Monday night droshes. What I found to be really cool is Trevor Noah's daily social distancing show. So he's obviously proudly South African and he's brilliant, as we all know. So if you go on YouTube, you can actually watch you can go to his playlist and he's got all the episodes there, and they really they're funny, but they're funny in a good way, in a tasteful way, and a really entertaining way. And it's also makes us feel good about being South African and having a responsible president as opposed to Mr. Trump. PC, this is so Jewish. Who do you know? I know a lot of people. PC, I don't know who you are though, but I'll find out sooner or later. Ingridi.ox1@gmail.com. R. Richard, co-learning vid, private, House of Ceramics at Gmail. Okay, you thought you were private, but I've exposed you. Okay, Danny J says, love Trevor. No, that's a great suggestion. Thank you. And I think that can actually help with emotional anxiety. It can definitely lighten the mood, and he's excellent and he's daily. So you can get your little daily dose, about 5 or 10 minutes. Sometimes he has 2-minute little clips. Okay, so here we go. Khoni G with a shameless plug. Okay, that's only reached me. So Khoni, should I mention that or not? Okay, so if you want relaxing, uplifting music, Khoni G's new album, 16 tracks, Spotify and Apple will send link now. Awesome, Khoni. So you're gonna have to, if you want the link to go to everybody, then share it with all panelists and attendees. There are still 63 people in the house. Khoni G is excellent. Khoni G, can I onboard you? Can I promote you onto the panel? Khoni G, have you got all your kit, all your microphone? Is your sound all in order? You can give us a bit of a taster. Khoni, can I? Yeah, give us a song. 100%. Khoni G is. I'm welcoming Khoni G onto the panel. Khoni G, we're waiting for you. Khoni, are you there? Post in the chat. I've upgraded you. There we go. There's Khoni. Khoni G, your camera's off and you are muted. Do you want to unmute yourself and show your face and give us a song?
Dude, I'm actually not ready for that. I mean, I don't have to set up.
No, professional is always ready.
I think we should do a proper, give me 1 second. I'm actually mailing my technicians internet people because the connection keeps on cutting off here for some reason. Okay, let's see if you could see me. 1 second. 1 second.
Yeah, we can see you. Welcome, Khoni G.
How you doing?
Looking good. Your camera ready. Your camera ready.
I want to do this properly. I don't want to do it now. I'll give you.
Do you want me to give you a minute to warm up the vocal cords?
No. I'm not saying now. I'm saying another time. 1 second. Wait, I just want to, give me 1 second. I want to see. I need to just find this for a second. How do I see myself? What do I do here?
You go to maybe speaker view or gallery view.
Gallery view. Oh, there you go.
There we go. Cool. So there's questions flying in from Barney is requesting a song, and he's also saying, what keeps you sane in these times?
It's talking to me.
Yeah.
I had a few days of being, anxious and like a whole bunch of stuff was postponed, but I think it's just your body getting used to all of that. Everyone's has I think like just getting used to the whole new world order. Also, I know a lot of people being affected. I know a lot of people overseas. Like if I log onto Facebook, every second person has been, someone has passed away, or is in hospital, or struggling to breathe. Like, yeah, even for someone who doesn't watch a lot of TV or radio and all that stuff, the overload and overshare on WhatsApp. So Shabbos was amazing, actually. Just phone off, and it was a really good healing time. But I've been good the last 2 weeks. Listen, I'm not complaining. I don't have like 4 kids that I'm trying to take do online school. I'll show you something really cool that we hear, just because. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I just muted myself, but and I was also just replying to some of the chats on the WhatsApp group with the panelists, but we can absolutely hear you. And Khoni, while you're prepping there's been message, a suggestion from PC saying, how about a panel with different musicians playing one evening South Africa Jewish Report lockdown concert? I think that's an amazing idea. So I'll share that with
I'm doing 2 different concerts on Sunday, actually. I'm going to do an Insta Live, but I'd love to do something with you. Just give me 1 second.
Okay, PC, your name is Ingrid. I think you put in PC when you opened up Zoom, when you opened up the webinar. And Dan, thanks Dan for giving the world my email address. Can't look. Sorry. Sorry, Ingrid. I won't mention it again. Okay, you can just unsubscribe, Ingrid, if people are honoring you. Okay, Milton Luton has had his hand up for a long time. I'm tempted to bring Milton up on the panel, and I will do that right now. I'll promote Milton to a panelist. Time to change my email address. Sharon also wants to know from you, Khoni, what shows are you doing? So you can talk about and we can post some of your upcoming shows. You've muted yourself.
Okay, and I'm supposed to know how this thing works. I see my screen's pretty grainy at the moment, eh?
Yeah, probably just because it's nighttime. Like mine also might be a little bit. I don't know. You just gotta have some good
some spotlights are off, maybe. Yeah, okay. But I'm doing I don't know yet exactly when I'm doing an Insta Live thing. Maybe Sunday night. We did just before lockdown. We did a concert, jam with me and my guitarist at like 2 meters away. But I'm gonna do something myself. Probably Sunday night. I'll let you know if you. Sunday. They're gonna send it out later. There's a thing for like Tzibas Hashem. It's like Jewish Kid Network in South Africa, and then they're connecting with kids around the world. So that's at 4 p.m. But that's like a program, a specific. It's not like, I wouldn't call it a concert. I'm doing a few songs for them, and then I'm doing a thing for the Uruguayan community. Well, it's open for anyone, obviously, Zoom. But thank you, Michael.
Well, not necessarily. There's been a lot of Zoom. There's been a lot of Zoom hacking and Zoom bombing lately, so people are actually taking it more seriously. The first story on the Jewish Report, if you get their online newsletter, which the online version of the newspaper, I got it today.
Yeah.
The first story is about online Zoom hacking. So it's just something to keep in mind that with Jewish events, sometimes people that are not meant to be there find their way in and then start messing around. So it's good to keep it somewhat protected.
Okay. Cool. So I just want to show you something here. Let's see if you could see this. You see that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So this is a loop pedal because I don't have a guitar here.
Yeah.
Not that I could play anyway, just like 4 chords, but I got this guitar. And this. So I've just literally got this. Obviously, I'm backing tracks, but I'm not gonna. I mean, I can play a track for you, but I just want to show you how this thing works. It's quite cool. Let me just put this a bit more down. Let's see. Can you see that? You should be able to see it.
Yes. Yeah.
That's so you've got this. Basically, it's you're going to record. Can you hear that?
Yeah.
So now we record it twice. Every time I press press it and goes orange, it's recording. I got 3 on there. Now I'm gonna add a beat. So that's how I have to create my own backing tracks because I don't have my musicians with me.
Oh, but that's amazing. That's super cool. Very, very awesome.
Add like trumpets over here. So I'll just play this and I'll add a couple trumpets. My neighbors are gonna love me now. But that's
No,
my
Connie,
backing
that's
track.
awesome.
Now you gotta just sing a song on top of that. Anyways.
No, but that's amazing. And you were talking to me yesterday about a platform for your concerts, and I think Zoom will work really
We're just
well.
gonna do Zoom and we're gonna do this kind of thing.
Yeah,
So,
100%. And you can welcome other musicians onto the stage, onto the panel, and you can collaborate. But obviously, we talked
it's gonna
about
be a
the sound.
lag.
Lag,
I mean, I could play this and you can try and sing, and we can see if there's a delay.
I'm going to mute myself.
Any other singers want to come on?
Okay, well, Milton is on the panel. Welcome, Milton. Now, which Lutherans are you? Which Lutheran family? Is this Daniel Lutheran, Kevin Lutheran? Milton, you there?
Gotta unmute yourself, Milton.
No, Milton's unmuted. We just can't see him, but he's not talking. I don't know if he's left the building. Milton, if you have left your house, you are not allowed out your house.
I went today for the first time in like 6 days. I went out to get some shopping.
Yeah, it's like a whole experience, eh? Feels like you're going on holidays. Like you're going to pack and you're going to prepare.
In the spa section. I happened to bump into a whole bunch of, like 85% of people are wearing masks.
Yeah.
And at 2 meters distance, we were all like, just great to see some people.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I must say that I feel really connected to humanity. With all this isolation, obviously, I think I told you that privately. Like, I just feel that, I think social media is really like coming to people, it's what it was originally created for, and making people closer. And I think people in general are more kinder. I mean, obviously, you're going to see the other side of it, but I see a lot of kindness, and I feel already connected to humanity, aside from all the Zooms and.
100%. No, I couldn't agree more. And if you actually think about Barney, welcome to the panel, by the way. If you think about what Mark Zuckerberg, what his mission was initially, and he still claims to be his mission, is to bring the world closer together. And I think maybe it kind of got lost somewhere along the way with Facebook and Instagram, but it's actually amazing what social media can do. Barney is at Amen Corner. He's left his house. His social distancing.
I'm at Augusta as well. Should I be?
Welcome to the panel, Barn, and you have your headset and everything. Are you like, is this an interview? Are you showing me what a pro you are? You want to be on the next Jewish Report panel here?
You got to come prepared, Stills. Khoni's got all the equipment there. Khoni's got everything.
I don't have much. I just got a mic and a loop pedal.
Colin's asking how many people are still on. There's still 52 attendees, and we have a panel of 4 panelists. We're going to have to boot Milton off the panel, unfortunately, because I think he's left the building. So we're not going to just let him take up a space here. So Milton, how do I do this? Get rid of Milton from the panel. Okay, Bon, what's going on?
Stills, just enjoying it. Unbelievable. Hey, sure. What an amazing night. People loved it. Hey, the WhatsApp groups are flying.
Yeah, no, it was a power panel. Hey, really powerhouse.
We have an amazing community.
Yeah, no, unbelievable, amazing. Khoni, are you getting ready for a little track there?
Khoni, give us something. The people are waiting. Give us something.
No one's going anywhere.
Well, I created the track. I just need to sing over it. I don't know what lyrics over here, but let me just see what I just made. I've made a few things. Do you know? Oh no. I'll create a track now. Do I'm just working this out now, by the way. There's let me just delete this track and I'll create another one. Do you know Jerusalem by Marcial, right? It's an easy one because so I've got an a cappella version. You can get it on Spotify, just saying.
I've got it, shot.
Not you, I'm just putting it out there to all our 57 participants. So it's on there. So I do the same thing basically. I do it with a loop pedal, so I'm going to do 4 layers, and then I will sing the words. Okay. Okay, I'm just going to see if I remember this. Second. Okay, recording one voice. Got 3 voices now. 1 second. Just gonna fix something quickly. Can you hear that? Can you hear the voices? Messing up one, let me just add another one, and then we're gonna start singing. In the ancient days, we were time with no delay, picking up the bounty and the spoils on our way. We've been traveling from state to state, and they don't understand what we say. 3,000 years with no place to be, and they want us to give up our milk and honey, don't you see? Not about the land or the sea, not the country, but the dwelling of His Majesty. Jerusalem, if I forget you, fire not gonna come from my tongue. Jerusalem, if I forget you, then my right hand forget what it's supposed to do. Technical question. Can you hear the kind of a mix together, or do you hear the lead vocal like really way louder?
Yeah, the lead vocal way louder. So the background stuff is like.
Can you hear the backings or not?
Yeah,
very softly.
Very softly.
I'm gonna add a couple more layers. 1 sec. Okay. We built a temple and a crown of glory. Years gone by, about 60. We were burned in an oven in a century. And a gas tried to choke, but it couldn't choke me. Not lie down, I would not fall asleep. Yeah, they come overseas and they tried to be free. Raise the demons out of history. Change your name and your identity. Afraid of the past and a dark history. Why is everybody always chasing me? Cut off the roots from your family tree, don't you see? That's not the way to be free. Jerusalem, if I forget you. Fire, Jerusalem, if I forget you. Then my right hand forget what it's supposed to do. Okay, we just add that. משגחך ירושלים תשכח ימיני, אם משגחך ירושלים תשכח ימיני, אם משגחך ירושלים ירושלים ירושלים, אם משגחך ירושלים תשכח ימיני. Jerusalem, if I forget you, how is that thing coming on, yeah? Jerusalem, if I forget you, and my right hand forget what it's supposed to do. Gonna add a beat in a moment. Come on, Howie. 1, 2, 3.
Now I can't sing. Where's Nissim? We need him to do a drum beat.
Yeah, we need Nissim to do a bit of beatboxing.
We also need to get some
He was
candles.
there before. Jerusalem, yeah, 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 Jerusalem, Jerusalem, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay, guys, that's it. That's the first track.
We
Anyway.
won.
Amazing. We want more, Khoni. We want more.
We won more.
Sim shalom. Sim
Sim
shalom.
shalom. Sim shalom. Okay,
I
Anthony
don't
Tate
have
is
the
loving it.
talent to be on this panel.
Howie,
Are we
there was
still
a Howie, you left the call, so you missed some of the chat, but there was a suggestion from Ingrid. I think it was Ingrid. I won't share her email address again because I named and shamed her on public YouTube here, but she suggested that we do a South Africa Jewish Report Zoom concert with a number of musicians.
You know something? I think that's a brilliant idea. So let's put it together. But we need people with talent.
Khoni's in. He's committed.
And
No, I
he's
said people
committed.
with talent.
Hazel Barnett thinks it's fantastic, and she's got all the nachas in the world here.
And
Son
look,
is a panelist and at Augusta.
And Anthony Chait is really enjoying it as well.
This is the new Chai FM.
And Anthony, didn't you write something for us in the Jewish
Very
report
nice.
this
I
week?
like.
Very nice. Very nice.
I'm playing just the first song. I'll play the first song of oh nice. How do I get these backgrounds? Let me work on that
So
one.
if you go next to stop video and you click up and choose a virtual background, and you can just save a picture and choose what you want.
Gerald Flexer.
Because live from the Vegas Strip, we present Khoni G and his doo-wop girls. We're not still broadcasting to YouTube, are we, Dan?
No, we absolutely are.
Okay, in that case, I'm definitely logging off.
No, there are 36 people watching on YouTube, and there are 35. How are you not going anywhere?
So Anthony Chait tells us that he reviewed Netflix's new miniseries Unorthodox on the Jewish Report this week. And how is it? It looks fantastic. I just haven't started watching it yet, but it looks like a great read. Of course, we'll read your review. I'm waiting for my hard copy of the Jewish Report, which should arrive tomorrow. But tell me if it's worthwhile. Should I actually start watching tonight?
Never mind that. I think we've got a panel here for a late night daily show with the SA Jewish Report with Khoni, Barney, and Howie.
Yeah. How was your wedding, Mike?
It was good. It was really good. Look, Khoni wasn't there, but we had to make do.
What are you talking about? Sorry, I missed it. I was just playing my music, but I figured no one's listening, so I'll just stop.
I was listening. It was all going. It was good.
Okay, no, it's fine. It's all good. Carry on.
Anthony Chait wants to know if I'm old enough to watch Unorthodox.
Oh, I just watched it. It's a great show.
Really? I don't think I'm orthodox enough to watch Unorthodox.
Good actors, but I mean, I have seen a couple posts of people saying it's not a good representation of the general. I mean, look, I know some Satmar people, and they definitely not like that, you know. But there's, I think, in every community, you're gonna have your extremists and your. Anyways, I mean, look, there's a lot of good that the Satmar community do also. So it's definitely not a representation on everybody, but it was a very powerful, sad, story. Yeah.
Okay,
well,
so I shouldn't watch it tonight if I'm looking for something happy and uplifting.
You've got
Yeah,
this,
I
Howie.
wouldn't say it's happy and uplifting, but
Yes,
also
I
it's a bit
definitely,
long.
I
You'll
have
be up till
this.
3 in the
I
morning.
have
but
this.
I also watched the making of it. It's quite interesting.
Really, okay.
Connie, it's been quite
Okay,
amazing
I-
how the global singing community, like Jewish singers, is kind of rallied together with doing live concerts
Yeah,
all over, getting people. I saw those on the one there with Yaakov Shwek. He had 30,000 people tuned in.
yeah, saw that as well.
Did you guys?
Amazing.
Did,
Yeah.
did you
Yeah,
guys by any chance?
I had about 25,000 actually. Just joking.
Did you guys see Rodine's school and what they did with Hallelujah?
Hallelujah. It was unbelievable. I don't know
I
how they
didn't.
did
What did
that.
they do?
Yeah, we must
Okay,
find the link.
I'm going to share. I'm going to share my screen with you, but just watch this.
Oh, but Howie, I think when you do your screen share, you must just say share computer sound in the settings. Like you click on the 3 dots when you're doing the screen share and you say share computer sound, so it'll come through.
Okay, except
Otherwise, I can do it I know that you've had some sound trauma there with your computer recently.
And it's coming through.
so, have you got sound?
Got it. I can't hear anything yet.
Yeah, no sound.
Okay. So Dan, how do I do sound?
Oh, this is the
So-
same dude.
You go to the options at the top on your screen share. So first pause the YouTube video, because otherwise we'll have FOMO. Yeah, so click on the 3 dots next, like from the top panel, and there should be a menu that comes down, and towards the bottom it says share sound, share computer
Share
sound.
computer sound. Okay, I'm going to start this again from the beginning because it's that spectacular.
This is the same director as Choir
Yeah.
Africa.
Really?
And Glover Youth Choir.
Well, I heard there was a secret chord that David played and it pleased the Lord, but you don't really care for music, do ya? Well, it goes like this: the 4th, the 5th, the minor fall, and the major lift. The baffled king composing hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Like, I love it.
Sure. Amazing.
Howie, turn up the volume a bit.
Your faith was strong, but you needed proof. You saw her bathing on the roof, her beauty and the moonlight overthrew ya. She tied you to her kitchen chair. She broke your throne and she cut your hair. And from your lips she drew them hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Ah,
That's impressive, hey?
Ronnie, have you heard about this 8D audio?
Again, 80
This-
audio.
Yeah.
What is that?
So do yourself a favor, go onto YouTube and type in 8D audio pentatonics. It's a new type of technology where
Oh,
if you
I
listen,
didn't hear you. 80, yeah, I heard of it. I've heard the
sure.
Pentatonics Hallelujah. Not Hallelujah, I heard their other song, yeah.
Yeah, unbelievable, hey? Sure.
Yeah, amazing.
Do you know the interesting thing about the song? When Leonard Cohen composed it, he actually wrote 80 different verses to the song. The standard version, I think, has 15 in, but he actually wrote almost a huge anthology of verses for it. And people generally in the beginning used to pick and choose which ones of the verses they wanted to include in the versions they sang.
Amazing, amazing. And I see that Robin posted in the chat the YouTube link to the IDF singing it in Hebrew. So I'd be keen to hear that. If everybody wants to, we can put that on. But I think Honey wants to have a go. Honey, do you have another?
Ready?
No, actually,
another
it's
single?
actually on my album, so you can just listen to the same thing. The music video hasn't been done yet because we were going to shoot in March, but thanks Corona. But anyways, there is on YouTube, there is like the platform which I uploaded all my songs to Spotify and Apple and iTunes and whatever, Amazon, Deezer, blah blah blah. So they also upload to YouTube like an MP3 audio. So it's just a picture of the album. So it is, if people don't have Spotify or Apple, they can get it on YouTube also. It's under Hallelujah.
What's your
Amazing.
favorite
Do you
song,
want to pop that
Connie?
in the chat? Will you pop that in the chat, Khon?
Yeah, let me do that now. What, like the YouTube? Okay.
Yeah, maybe just get it from YouTube and just stick it in the. Yeah, and Sharon Findleson's asking for a copy of the Rodin one. Yeah, I think you can just YouTube and just search for that, but we can share.
Yeah, if you just go Rodin School Hallelujah, Sharon, you'll find it. It's absolutely beautifully done and a great advert for the school as well.
And an advert for Khoni G has just come into the chat from Danny J. I have to let you all know that Khoni's new album is phenomenal. You should all get it. So I will definitely get it. Okay,
Khoni, what's your favorite song on the new album? And of all time?
Shut up, I muted myself. What do you say? I mean,
what's your favorite song on the new album and of all time, of all your songs?
It's just a difficult one. I've got like 16 tracks on the album. So some of them, so it's quite different. I've got a whole bunch of original songs, and I've got covers that I've done, so to speak, like shul songs, but I've remixed them. Like I took shul the songs that everyone knows, like Tov Lahadot, Lashem, that song, but I remixed it. I made a very modern kind of soulful sound. Mikolot from shul. Like I've done a few different shul songs. I recorded with Kailichi in the Mambaza choir. We did like Enkel Kano, Adonai Lam. So it's different sounds. There's like literally like a Cafe Del Mar, Buddha Bar, loungy sounds on one or two of the songs. There's quite a few different genres on the album. So, I mean, do I have a favorite? I don't know if I have a favorite, but yeah, I enjoy a lot of there's all a different process. Some of them I did it with an engineer, just me and him. We created it from like scratch, and then other ones I recorded with the band. So it was quite a different. Yeah, I don't have a favorite right now.
But it's brilliant. I've heard a lot of the songs. They're really cool.
Thank you. I like the groove on Yivarechecha. Shalom Aleichem is great. Let's see what else. And I got some, Hallelujah, Oseh Shalom, Wake Me Up. There's a few mashups on there. Like I mashed up Avicii of Monsters and Men with the Shlomo Carlebach tune. So I got 3 different tunes in there. Yeah. Anyway, let me get working on this YouTube link. I can't do 2 things at once, clearly. Okay, handing it over to Howard Sackstein for the next minute.
Well, thank you.
What's happening in Vegas?
In Vegas, we're on the strip. We're busy pulling those handles, watching Cirque du Soleil all alone. It's me and the performers. Yeah.
It looks very isolated there.
I do believe the ability to change your background is in fact one of the best inventions ever.
But so, I'll tell you about Vegas. Corona should have started in Vegas, because what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Look, I got the Queen busy looking at me. So,
Connie, I'm trying to get your brother from YouTube onto Zoom. So he's commenting on YouTube. Mendel is watching. Told him to join on Zoom, so maybe he'll join us. We can bring him onto the panel. If there's anyone else who wants to be on the panel, we don't want to exclude people. Hazel Barnett, you are more than welcome to join us on the panel. You can just put your hand up, your virtual hand. As soon as you raise your virtual hand, I will take that as a sign that you want to join us on the panel.
Did anyone put their hands up?
Not yet, no.
Huh.
Tough soul.
You can just promote them like we did in the comedy show, Howie.
Exactly. So in fact, that's what we're going to be doing on Saturday night in the sports quiz, or the general knowledge quiz. So while Howard Feldman will be our MC for the evening, we've actually got 8 different people who will be asking questions.
How's it going to work, Howie?
So for example, Wayne Sussman is going to be doing politics and current affairs. So we'll promote him. He will ask 10 questions. Each family will have to write down their answers on a piece of paper. And then Howard Feldman will give the answers, and you'll mark yourself. You'll submit your results to Dan and myself. And we've got 8 different categories. So Rolene Marks will be joining us from Israel and doing questions on Israel. Dave Shapiro from Sasfin will be doing business. Herschel Jarvitz will be doing stuff relating to sport. I'll be doing not sport, definitely not sport. I'll be doing travel and geography.
Yes.
Travel and geography. Got some great questions there. Dina Diamond will be doing People Magazine. So if you have any questions about celebrities, movies, music, that's going to be on Dina's panel. So each one will come up one by one. And SMD Technologies have donated us a whole bunch of really cool prizes like speakers
Amazing.
and VR sets and stuff like that to give away to people who participating.
Amazing. It's given a great sense of community, this, Howie. You guys have done a phenomenal job.
Yeah, no, I must say I've been astounded at just how many people have bought into the entire process. And I think tonight's panel was really spectacular. I'm
World
not
class, Sure.
I'm not a therapist sort of person. So I was expecting, to be quite honest, to be fairly bored. But I was really engaged, and I thought like people had amazing, great value. My mother, by the way, Dan, thinks your sister's fantastic.
She was brilliant still.
Message from Helen. Yeah, no, Leanne made me proud. No, she was superb. I was worried when her roller coaster camera, but she pulled everything together.
Connie, you posted the link I saw.
Susan's asking about Connie posted the link, and then Susan's asking, where do you find the links to all the Zoom sessions? I'll post that over here as well, because we've got all the recordings here. So this is a very useful resource. As I said, tonight's session and the comedy and the Q&A from Sunday, as well as the Excel crash course and the how to teach using Zoom. That's all there. And there's a link to join the WhatsApp group so you stay in the loop. Howie, we're going to have to put out communication to tell people to watch the recording, even if they tuned in live, because they've missed a huge part of it, which is this daily late night show here with Howard Saxton, Connie G, and Michael Barnett.
So Anthony Chait just asked if I'd be using some of my own travel pictures in the quiz. And I am using a few of them. And in fact, Ant, I hope you like this picture. I took it in Burma on my first trip to Burma, and it was monks, in fact, lining up. You get up early in the morning, and the monks walk down the street, and you sit on your knees, and you provide food. That you give alms to the monks. And this is one of my favorite pictures that I've taken. I want to show you another Burmese picture, because that picture.
Howie, you could go through your travel albums here as virtual Zoom backgrounds literally until the end of lockdown.
You could keep it on like put on shuffle, and it just.
I'm showing you all these. That's in Lake Inlay in Burma. It's also one of my favorite pictures.
Sure. Where's your favorite place, Howie? You've seen pretty much everywhere. Do you have one?
I haven't seen everywhere, but my favorite place, without any doubt, is actually India. Where I've now been 4 times.
What about it?
So the culture, for me, I love Europe, I love America, but I know and understand it. It's a culture that's not unfamiliar to me. You walk into another stadium, another cathedral. You know what a cathedral looks like? Yes, one is more beautiful than the next, but it's everything you understand. And when you go to Asia, just nothing makes sense. And that's
Yeah.
why I love Asia so much. The religion, the culture, the language, the food, everything's just mind-blowing. And India combines that and like with just the nicest, warmest people you've ever met. And you
Amazing,
can never
yeah.
be alone in India. Someone's always engaging with you. Someone's inviting you to their home. Someone's wanting you to go do something with them. And they're just the most engaged, warm people in the world. So
yeah, I heard a story of guys that went to the Sun Festival there. And
Sunburn Festival,
this one guy, they were there and they were stranded with accommodation, and this wealthy guy invited them to a house for a week, and they ended up becoming unbelievable mates afterwards. We chatted about it a few weeks ago, to Friday night, and they were just saying the people there are just, you can't explain it. They just welcome you in their house. They treat you as one of their own, and they didn't even know this guy. And
you know, I'll
a,
give you my first time at Sunburn Music Festival was, I think, 6 years ago, and made lots of friends there, most of whom I keep in contact with on Facebook. And I land now, I was coming from the south of India. I was at an Ayurvedic retreat with Mikey Silberman. I don't know if you know Mikey. And I flew into Goa. I wanted to get there for the last day of Sunburn. I wanted to see my mate Nathan De Silva, who's a photographer, and we both had backstage passes for the thing. And I land, I post a picture that I've landed, and a guy called Jigger, who I met 6 years ago, says, I see you've landed in Goa. Are you going to Sunburn? I said, yeah, I'm on my way from the airport to my hotel. I'll be there tonight. He said, what hotel? I'm coming to collect you. And that's just
amazing,
typical of being it. So off I went with Jigga and all of his mates to Sunburn. And then Nathan De Silva, my mate, is the photographer, drags me backstage, and I get to hang out with all the artists, and like Sean Singh, who's one of the top DJs in the world, played festivals all over Europe and has played Tomorrowland. And like we're hanging out together, trying to bring him to South Africa now, covering my guns, trying to get him to Mauritius, to perform in Mauritius. And in fact, if not for Corona, he would have been in South Africa in March, because his dad plays in the India over 50 cricket team.
Wow.
And, he was coming to South Africa, and the Singh family, actually, Sunburn is their franchise. That's what they do.
Sure. That's incredible, eh?
Howie, this could be a late night show all on its own. The travel stories of Howie. You put up a virtual picture and you just go into story mode.
I think that's a fantastic idea.
P. Tanner agrees, best entertainment ever. Hazel is very chuffed that she's got this entertainment. Sharon Fingelson says, let's meet every night this time for a chat and a drink. Anthony Chait is loving the amazing pick and can feel the energy. I think there's an opportunity here for a late night show.
So I actually want to show you a crazy pic that I know Anthony will really enjoy.
We've lost Honey. We've just got his mic. I know he's back.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's clearer. Just you on mute.
I forgot. I just went to get another light.
Another light. You can't smoke during this.
Jeez, it's so bright in there. You've got your hat and everything. Have you put on SPF 30?
Honey, could you give us a rendition of Hallelujah? Are you up for it?
I just put the link there. Right? I'll play it for you if you want.
Yeah.
Hallelujah. I mean, what, like I should sing like that? It's a bit weird, no? Like in English. I mean, do you seriously want to hear that?
What?
There's a bit of connect.
So Ronnie says, what's the topic now? Let's see what's going on here. Ronnie Dorfman is loving this whole show, by the way. Absolutely loving it. I think Adele is still tuning in from London. We've still got 37. The number's actually climbing. So people have actually realized
I've got this company. So they're kind of satellites. They're on satellite. Did you hear me at all?
It was a bit delayed.
Bit of a lag.
Yeah, it's my internet. I've been mailing this company. So I've got like a satellite dish that it's like works on satellite. Now I want to switch to fiber. I couldn't do it before the lockdown.
Okay.
Anyways. Be sure, I mean, like Hallelujah. Is that what you want to hear?
If you're happy to, I'm happy. Stills?
Yeah, absolutely. Ronnie, take it away. If you're comfortable. I mean, unless you've got something else that you want to do.
You've got something else, or you want to just play your YouTube one? We're also happy with that.
Yeah, I've been here before. I've seen this room and I've walked this floor. I used to live alone before I knew ya. I've seen your flag on the Marble Arch. No, I've just mixed up the lyrics, right? I love none of it. Yeah, definitely. I switched from
Victory
makes-
March.
Still sounds good to me, hey?
Still sounds great.
I love not a victory march. It's a cold and it's a broken hallelujah. 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 I've got this.
Get your
over here.
candles out. That was brilliant, Ronnie.
Great, Connie. So, Anthony, this is a picture I want to show you. I know you just sent me a message about whether the last few pictures were ultra. But look at the picture behind me now. And that's taken in the salt deserts of Bolivia.
I can hear it.
Where there are no, there's no perspective because everything is white. So the dinosaurs are this big.
Just some volume there, Ronnie.
Too loud.
No, we need a bit more volume.
Really? Now?
Better.
It's pumping here. My neighbors are going to be killing me.
Really? Well, they can't come to you because they're isolated, so it makes no difference.
All right.
Ah, Shkayach. Bon, we can make up the Shkayach choir. Shkayach.
Yeah. Oh, shkach.
Shkayach.
Mazel tov.
Okay, what's next? Howie, what's the background now?
You're currently looking at sunrise over the temples of Angkor in Cambodia.
Angkor Wat, wow.
Angkor Wat. So in fact, the first time I was at Angkor Wat, which is in 2001, and there were 16 tourists in all of Angkor Wat. It was just after the end of the civil war in Cambodia, and all the tourists got together to go watch sunrise. And I've been back 3 times, I think, since then. And today you'll go and watch. There'll be 16,000 people at sunrise to watch. But my first ever sunrise there was 16 of us. And it was myself and bizarrely Mark Posniak, who I met for the very, very first time watching sunset from on top of a mountain, watching sunset over the temples of Angkor.
Wow.
Jeez.
Unbelievable.
That's unreal. How many countries have you been to, Howie?
76.
Sure. That's incredible.
We got one of those scratch maps where you kind of like scratch the...
I have 2. Kathy Kaler gave me my first one, and Liron Bukris gave me one for my birthday this year, actually.
Very cool. Amazing, Howie. Bon, great interviewing.
Did any of you watch the John Sinai thing? It looks like I'm landing airplanes, but there's no planes in the air. Control coming over. Did any of you watch that talk that John Sinai released on YouTube the other day? Basically, it was a 37-minute chat. I sent it to you still. You must watch it when you get a chance. Unbelievable, hey?
I
sure.
Was on it. Yeah,
brilliant, hey? What a smart guy.
Was it just him, or was he interviewing someone, or was it just
No,
John?
it was just a talk. He was at his like parents' retreat in like a forest somewhere, and he just said like he gave a 37-minute talk of like 9 steps of how to deal with like uncertainty in difficult times and what are the things you can do, and just similar to tonight's panel, but he just got an amazing way of framing things and just a really good way of speaking. I've heard him speak at one of our work functions before as well. Brilliant guy, hey?
So he's at his parents' farm at Machilbeskloof at the moment.
Yeah, he's running in the
which is
forest every day, he says.
Which is probably a lot safer than being in his usual spot in Dubai.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, Selwyn Levy is available for sharing some ideas on motivation if you like. Do we know? I don't know if I know Selwyn Levy. Do you
That's
guys
my
know
uncle,
Selwyn?
Stills.
Oh, Selwyn. Okay, I didn't put that together. How's it, Selwyn?
Yeah.
What's up, Selwyn? Okay, so we got the whole Barnet crew. Amazing. Okay, and
I'll send
Mike,
that.
are you in isolation?
Am I in isolation? I'm actually at the Masters, Howie. I booked tickets
okay.
and they cancelled it, but I thought I'm not giving up the opportunity. So it was meant to start in a week, so I thought I'm coming aney. I might as well be here. You can see there's no one else here.
Fantastic.
Yeah. I'm gonna find the link.
Sorry, I'm being not being very social, trying to do these things at the same time.
All good. We love you.
Yeah, I mean, it's didn't really prepare for the show tonight. So,
no, you've been amazing. You've been amazing. It's a pity about your internet. Like if you had fiber, because we've got fiber here. I'm at my mom's place, and we just upgraded from a Howie. I just upgraded today. It activated, and it was amazing, perfect. Like streaming to YouTube and stuff. You can just phone MWeb and get them to upgrade. But if you haven't got the fiber installed already, then obviously it's an issue, and you have to wait till lockdown. After lockdown.
Yeah, I'm supposed to have 40 megs upload and download. So I'm supposed to have it very fast, but it's giving trouble at the moment.
When we did a test on Dan's speed yesterday or the day before, I just didn't realize that his mother lived in the Middle Ages.
Just compared to you, Howie, but you can't even get your earphones and your microphone right.
I had a long session with Arthur Goldstuck on it. It says stop running Windows on a Mac device.
Yeah, it just can't handle it.
That's very sad.
Yeah, and Susan says you can change your MWeb contract online. I tried that, but I didn't know how to change it. You can buy a new contract, I think, but I didn't know how to change. Anyway, from 20 meg down, 2 meg up, I've gone to 2020. So now I don't need to worry about streaming. You've got to have rock solid internet in this day and age in lockdown. So yeah, absolutely.
So Hazel Barnett says Harmian is watching in Melbourne. Is that Hermian or Harmian? Mike, I presume that's your family.
Yeah, I think my mom's got the whole clan on now, hey?
The word is spreading.
That's the link for the Johnson.
So who is that? Auntie Harmian?
Yeah, it's my mom's first cousin. So it's my second. Okay. I put the link for that Johnson I talk for anyone interested. I know Cheryl Flexer wanted it. Money back guarantee if you don't like it, Cheryl. You can have your money back.
How are you going to give the money back, Barney? You can't go out the house and give the cash back.
You can come and fetch it. It's fine. How you get there, I'm not sure.
Connie, your brother's still watching on YouTube, eh? I've told him to come to Zoom. I don't know if you want to drop him a line.
Is it Mendel Goldman still?
Yeah.
But he's commenting on the Zoom chat.
No, I've pasted them there. He's commenting on YouTube. I'm trying to bring everyone. So you know what? Like Henman Hill at Wimbledon with the big screen. That's the YouTube live, but the center court is Zoom. That's the analogy. So we want people now that some of the crowd have left center court at Wimbledon. Now we've got the retractable roof on, and we want everybody to come into the stadium. The word must spread that people must join the Zoom. Honi has muted himself again. His voice is amazing, but it's just not doing justice.
Honi, how many Goldman kids are there? Hundreds. How many are you?
There's 11. Well, 11. I've got 10 siblings.
So the 11 of. Do you know them all by name?
I know some of them by name. I know
some of them by voice
as well.
So,
Yeah.
where are they in the world? Do you still have a sibling in Hawaii?
Oh, shit, it's my Wi-Fi again. What did you say?
Do you still have a sibling in Hawaii?
Philadelphia.
Oh, sorry. So you.
Yes.
Can anyone hear Khoni? Okay, you're
He's
back.
back.
He's back.
Okay, so do you have a sibling in Hawaii?
He's
Scott?
frozen at a great moment.
Like Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah.
Nice saluting. I salute you back, Khoni.
If anyone's to connect Vanilla is the company.
Yeah, Gon, I would say turn off your video, which might just mean that we can hear you, but then we won't be able to see you. So, yeah.
But Khoni's dad has quite a mad story from a Holocaust. I remember, Khoni, you shared it a few weeks ago on social media. There was I don't know the exact story. Wasn't like your grandfather or someone was saved by a guy or something, and your dad met up with him?
So I have
Sukihara, was it not?
Sugihara, yeah. Sugihara, yeah. So I actually went to meet him. It was a year ago, May. My dad, my grandfather, my dad's father was saved through a visa of Chiuni Sugihara, and for the first time, my oldest brother in Philadelphia was actually made a program uniting for the first time that my dad should meet. So basically the son of the survivor meets the son of the rescuer, and they made a whole event out of it. They met at the Japanese tea garden, and they had a whole ceremony, and the news was there, and it was like on TV. It was quite a beautiful it was a beautiful moment. And then they did an interview on Sunday. They had a panel, and yeah, they asked them both questions. And there was a woman at the end of this whole evening. There was a woman there who was actually saved by Sugihara's father, and she brought her visa at the end of the evening. It was such a powerful moment. And he's become an expert, obviously, at his father's work. And he saw his father. He read his father's signature, and he could see it was his father's signature because. Let me just try this. Yeah, no, it was a beautiful time. So, my grandfather was 14 when he ran away from his only survivor of his family.
Sure.
Yeah,
Scary,
I've got a brother in Hawaii. You were asking me before. My oldest brother's in Philadelphia. I got a brother in Hawaii, a brother in Melbourne, sister in Uruguay, and then Joburg and Cape Town. The rest of us.
Oh, amazing! When I was going to
Dan, what do you think?
Sorry, Gon, what's that?
On Sunday, I'll just do the concert like this, without any video.
Yeah,
you should try without audio as well.
And Khoni, Susan says you can change your contract online with MWeb if you're interested.
Well, anyway, Vanilla is the company, in case anybody's interested to get like really fast connection like I have. Vanilla. I'll give you their number in the chat.
Well, yeah, serves you right. Go for credible.
Hey, we're going to welcome Mendel, Brother Mendel. Speaking about the Goldman siblings, we have one of the hundreds, one of the 11 who has joined us. M for Mendel. Do you want to turn on your camera, unmute yourself?
No,
Mendel,
let's do a test. Khoni, when is Mendel's birthday? Do you know?
Yeah, I know the Hebrew birthdays only.
Really?
Yeah. So Mendel's birthday, Flip, let me just get this right. It's in Tammuz. So it's either the I'm getting mixed up with his anniversary, which is also in Tammuz, if I'm not mistaken. I think his birthday is the 10th or the 8th, no?
First time lucky, eh?
Okay, cool. Got it.
10th of Tammuz, 26th June. I've actually got a set of twins born on my birthday, eh? I share birthday with my youngest kids.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
Amazing.
So
I was 37 when they were born. So when they had their optionist, it was my 40th, and I worked out when it's going to be their balmy, it's going to be my 50th on the same day. It's pretty wild, eh?
That's very cool. So of like your kids' generation, how many Goldmans are there?
Jeez. My dad would be very upset if you answered this question. You know, he did an article in Jewish Life, I think this month or last month, about his 70th, and he didn't want to put a picture in that we took with all the grandchildren, because he had all the grandchildren here from America, from all over the world, Uruguay, everywhere, including Hawaii. Howie, I heard you asked about Hawaii. They also came. And he wouldn't put the picture in because he's very worried about the ayin hara, the evil eye. You know, he doesn't want us to talk about numbers. If anybody asks him how many grandchildren, he's like, he doesn't remember. He had lost count.
Because I knew about Hawaii because when I was going to Hawaii once, your mother wanted me to try to donate money to build a mikveh in Hawaii.
Oh, it sounds about right.
Which I thought chances I would never use myself, but not only that, they have an ocean. So that they could just walk into the Pacific Ocean. I didn't think they really deserved a mikveh.
Yeah, all 10 of them, hey?
All 10 of them. I think it's your brother, his wife, and like 3 kids or something. That's the entire Jewish community.
No, it's a crazy story how they landed up there, hey? It's a ridiculous story. That's another late night show, let me tell you.
Oh, really? Don't tell us.
Connie, can I talk? How many people are on this show, by the way? I don't know. I've just joined on the Zoom, so I can't see much.
10,000 at the moment.
And counting.
And counting.
Now we got 28. We got 5 of us on the panel, and we got 28 people watching from the comfort and safety of their own bedroom, including Anthony, Barbara, Beverly, including Hazel Barnett, and most of the Barnett mishpacha, which is not as big as Goldman's. It's still quite prolific. We've got Sharon Fingelson, loving it. Susan has been very, very, very engaged. We've got Adele from London, so it's a very international audience, and no one's going anywhere, I'll tell you that much.
So I'll tell you a very brief version. Basically, he was married in America, in New York, and without giving like all the details, he landed up leaving one day the family. This is my brother, by the way, and finding himself in Hawaii. I think he was searching for, I don't know what, but he found himself in Hawaii, and he fell in love with this island called Kauai. And I don't know how many years later, I think 10 years later, he eventually went back to New York, went back to his wife, remarried her, and said, "You got to come back with me to Hawaii." And then they decided to open the Chabad House of Hawaii. So that's the
very you made it sound really bad.
What's that?
I have a better version.
It's here.
Oh, my internet.
You keep blaming the internet when he doesn't want us to talk.
Yeah.
I just have to turn off my video because it keeps on cutting out. But yeah, that's the story. I'm sure he would love us to share it on a recorded YouTube. I'm joking. I actually love talking the story because it's such a fascinating story. And I'm a big fan of his. It's such a deep guy. And he's got like crazy stories of divine providence. He's a big believer of like everything is happening for a reason, and he's got incredible stories. I keep on hacking him to write a book, but that is the gist of it. You know, he got divorced from his wife, he had a kid, and he lived on the island, like farmed land, didn't have any connection with like humanity. I mean, aside from like farming the land, and yeah, then he actually lived in South Africa for a bit of time. He started Chayenu, which you might want to talk about, Mendel. And then, yeah, they basically, it was 10 years later when they remarried. And now he's been there for how many years? I don't know. I actually went to Pesach 2009 to Kauai, and I helped him with the Seder there.
How many people?
Yeah, he had 2 more kids since he got remarried to the same woman the second time around. He had 2 more kids now. in Hawaii. So now they've got 3 kids, 1 from the first marriage with the same person as the second marriage, and 2 from the same person in the second marriage. So now they've got 3 kids.
But you know, if you get born in Hawaii, you're not really American.
What are you talking about? You mean you're Kenyan?
Well, we saw, yeah, exactly. You're Kenyan. You're automatically Kenyan if you get born in Hawaii. Barack Obama approved that.
Barack Hussein.
Was he born in Hawaii?
Yeah.
Sure, he was born in Hawaii. I've even been past the hospital in which he was born.
Have you been to Kauai, Howard? The island.
I have indeed, yeah.
Not the shop.
Is it not the shop where you get the smoothies? Same.
I met one of the founders of Kauai, actually. He's, there's a couple of Jews.
When were you there, Howard?
Oh, must be about 7-8 years ago.
And you recommend it as a place to go to?
Look, I thought kind of Honolulu area was very commercialized. It was quite disappointing, but I went to Big Island. I loved Big Island.
Yeah,
I'm
beautiful.
obsessed with erupting volcanoes, and the fact that I could fly over in a helicopter over the bubbling cauldron of lava was just like an unbelievable thrill. And at night, you drive up to one of the highest volcanoes, and there's an observatory with telescopes. And you go see the night sky above cloud level on top of a volcano. And that's so special.
Sure.
The landscape,
Wow.
the landscape on the Big Island is unbelievable.
Yeah. So I stayed in a place
The whole
called
island is black and white stone.
yeah,
Really?
Kona, most famous for its Ironman race.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I
think
have
it's
my
the
Kona
world champions
Ironman
happen there.
t-shirt. Exactly. I have my Ironman t-shirt. Never run, cycled, or swum in my life, but I have the t-shirt.
So have you guys heard about Rami? Do you know Rami Sasson?
Yes, he sent me his note in the middle of all of this.
So I don't know if I've met Rami Sasson, but I know the name. But apparently he's doing a triathlon from home on Sunday, like a full distance, or I don't know if it's half or full. I think it's a 1.9 kilometer swim in his pool with one of those suspension things. You know,
That's
like
brilliant.
his feet will be tied by like some elastic to the side of the pool, and he'll just be swimming. It's kind of like a swimming treadmill, and then
Sure.
Can't think of anything worse than that.
and then he's got a treadmill and a stationary bike. So I think he's going to do the full thing. So at the Smile Foundation, they wanted me to help with the Zoom. So it's interesting.
Are you going to be doing it?
I'm chatting to them. I need to actually just give Rami a call. I'm waiting for his details. I'll give him a call.
So
tomorrow.
your host tonight, Sean Matteson, he's a big triathlete.
Howie, I actually don't know. I think he is into it.
No, Sean's a great athlete. Is a fantastic human as well.
Yeah, he's very, very strong.
Yeah, he did come off his bicycle recently and was quite badly beaten up. But he came off his bicycle.
In the cradle of humankind.
Correct. So I'm just going to share with you my screen. So here's Rami's lockdown half Ironman challenge for the Smile Foundation. Sure. And he'll be doing a 1.9 kilometer swim in his plunge pool, 90 kilometers on an indoor trainer, and 21.1 kilometers on a treadmill.
Jesus, wow. 10. Wow.
I wonder how do they measure in the pool on the like a suspended rope pool treadmill thing? Like, is that probably, I guess there's a watch setting for that, but that's crazy.
Yeah, it is mad that.
Or maybe it's just based on time. Like he knows how long it would typically take him for the time, but sure, that's an extreme event. Wow. I think they actually emailed me that. I must check that out. There's crazy stuff going on online. It's amazing.
Dan, I'll send you Rami's details. You said you wanted to speak to him.
Yeah,
just remember, you have obligations on Sunday. Sunday evening, you're doing the health and fitness panel with.
I've lost track, Howie. We need to put these in Google Calendar because it's like
I agree. But we got Dean Furman, the Bafana soccer player, and we've got Nadine Hurwitz doing yoga, and we got Brendy Sundelson who is going to be doing mindfulness, And we've got Paul and Andrew Rothschild from Sweat 1000. They're joining the panel as well.
Amazing.
Amazing.
So
I'm looking forward to the time after the lockdown when all of this gets back to normal or the new normal, and we integrate all these amazing technologies into our day-to-day life. Like the pre-Shabbos, I was telling Choni about how he actually mentioned to Choni, he must thank you live on air, on YouTube Live, for attending his Kabbalat Shabbat last week, just before you then bounced to Sydenham Shul with Rabbi Stern for his and Rabbi Goldman for their Kabbalat Shabbat. And I said that Howie is in lockdown heaven because he can be in Cape Town and in Joburg on one evening at the same time. So it's his ultimate.
I do like tours of the Goldmans on Friday afternoons. Mental, where are you going to be on Friday? I'll log in.
So on Friday, I'll tell you what happened. My street have a WhatsApp group, and they said, can guys play music and come to like the gate and like wish everybody else good Shabbos and a good weekend and all that. So I played Choniji Boy Color, the song he played before, but I first of all had proper speakers. The speakers before were terrible. And it was so awesome on the WhatsApp group of the street. Everybody's like posting thanks to the Shabbos music. We had like this whole Shabbos music vibe going on. It was quite nice. We had some nice songs from the new album. So that was my Shabbos. That was my pre-Shabbos drinks and story.
Amazing.
That's amazing. Where are you going to be this week?
We'll see where the biggest party's at. I mean, I don't know. Every shul's trying to outdo the other one. It's ridiculous what's going on.
I saw the chosin from whatever the lead of the choir from Santon Shul also sent out a whole Friday night thing on WhatsApp on Friday afternoon with the whole Friday night service for people.
So the truth is that this past Friday, my sister, this is number 4 in the family, she had a Zoom.
The one in Uruguay?
No, the one in Bloberg, Cape Town. Not Gardens,
okay. Is
the other one.
Is the one married to Rabbi Darren?
That's it. You're on the ball,
okay.
Harry.
Okay.
So they had a baby.
It's hard, but I'm better than Choni at keeping track of all of these.
They had a baby a week before, so they had a breast on Shabbos.
Number 743.
So it was a second son, by the way. They have mostly daughters. They had I think this is number 7. They had a one boy, and this is number 7, second boy. So the Mohel moved into them for Shabbos. This is last week. And on Friday afternoon, they did a Zoom Shalom Zachor. So that's where I spent last Friday. I was on the treadmill and zooming into their Shalom Zachor. It's pretty cool. You can be running on the treadmill and being at a Shalom Zachor is pretty cool.
Dan, I'm going to ask you this because I don't want any of the frommies to have to answer it. But are you having a Zoom Seder this year?
And who are you asking? You're asking me?
I'm asking you and Mark.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So I'll lead the Seder for the first time in my life. It'll be a new experience. I'll be here with my mom. I think Mark might just sneak out of his place and come and join us, I hope. So we'll have the 3 of the Stillerman clan together. So that'll be lekker. But one thing I was actually wanting to ask you guys, and maybe it's worth asking during Monday nights, why is this Pesach different, is it's going to be, I mean, I'm finding, and I said this to Choni yesterday when we chatted, the 25 hours this past Shabbos of switching off was amazing. And I mean, I don't keep Shabbos 100%, but I try and put my phone off as much as I can. That was amazing. But, and I think during this lockdown period, it's great. But I'm thinking about the Wednesday night, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It's 3 days of no technology and no connection for people on their own. That's going to be something that's going to be quite interesting and quite difficult, I think.
Yeah.
So I don't know if anybody has any thoughts on that. I think one needs to think of some creative solutions to keep the connection.
Step in, Barak. Barak might have a few ideas.
You got to see the latest chat that's come in on the group.
And you do a Zoom with your family before Pesach starts, because what happened? The Sephardi's say it's fine.
The Sephardi's say it's fine. And look, I am completely non-qualified to ever give halachic advice. So you must take it from where it comes. But in my view is that family and people are the most important things in the world. And if it's ever a choice, there's my favorite Goldman.
Yeah.
Sorry to the rest of you, but let's face it.
Bring in the Goldmans.
Exactly.
This is like a reality show. Keeping up with the Goldmans.
But Sharon, a very
Who let that guy on, by the way? Who let him on? You didn't ask me.
Are you interrupting my halachic advice here? Really, Mendel. But so, Sharon, this is the advice that a proper, genuine Orthodox rabbi in Johannesburg gave me one night, and he said, knowing you and your personality, I think if it's ever a choice for you to keep Shabbos and Daven at home alone, or drive to Shul to be in a minyan, I think for you should drive to Shul. And you see, Nissan, I told you, I'm completely unqualified to give halachic advice. He says, Howard giving halachic advice, oy vey. But I think that humanity trumps everything. And I will definitely be having a Zoom Seder this year. My nieces in Israel will be joining. Arthur Barelowitz and Michelle, his wife, will be joining as well. We're always generally together for Pesach, and we'll be using Zoom and other technology to still be together this Pesach, because that human contact is more important.
Howard, just make sure to use your pinky, not your index finger.
I'm going to use the back of a spoon to click on Zoom.
But sanitize the spoon afterwards. Just make sure this is all...
Can you explain to me why Nissan is there in his incredibly weird hat, but is yet to actually appear in person?
He's just.
I think we've reached max capacity of Goldmans in one sitting.
Nissan, you want to show yourself?
Do you like
the big
my picture
reveal?
of Baraka? I took this picture of Baraka at the Wanderers Stadium when he was here, last year or the year before?
Amazing.
Oh, there he is.
Ah!
Hey.
Where were you? I was asking for you to accompany your brother as he sang earlier.
Oh, I missed that. I missed everything. I was there for the beginning, for the first hour.
My
Look at vibe.
Where are you, Nissan?
I'm at my in-laws, Camps Bay. For the
Could be
lockdown.
worse. Be on lockdown in Camps Bay.
Could be worse at the in-laws. 21 days.
Do the in-laws make you dress like that during lockdown?
I was going to say.
Dress
That's
like
very
what?
formal. That's very formal.
Yeah, do you have to wear a tie to dinner?
Do you know his father-in-law? You obviously don't know his father-in-law, eh?
I don't know his father-in-law, but everyone else is wearing their pajama pants, and sometimes not even their pajama pants. And you should
see what's below the belt, Howard. His father-in-law, just to give you Howie, his father-in-law rocked up at Kabbalat Shabbat with no shirt, so that's his father-in-law.
Oh, really? That's because Nissan was probably wearing his shirt, but it's not even like a normal tuxedo. It's like a white tuxedo used for special events. I learned that while watching Downton Abbey.
Nissan, are you walking around the house? What's going on there?
It's very formal. I'm just saying, it's feeling anxious.
Are you barefoot, by the way?
No, I was just about to get David Meyer and which is why I have my jacket on, and get into bed. And then I saw this link. I saw a screenshot of you, or she posted on the family chat. I was like, what's this guy doing on there? I haven't checked the family
just
chat.
Explain to me, if you daven Marav in bed, you put on a jacket and get into bed daven Marav. How does this work?
I was about to daven Marav and get into bed.
Not at the same time.
Yeah.
Is there anything halachically problematic about davening Marav while in bed?
Who's Marav?
That's above my pay grade.
So I vote we bring Sharon Figgelson onto the panel.
Guys, beautiful to see you all. Check it out. Sweet dreams.
No, bring your little round drums thing and play for us.
Yes.
I bought it. I actually bought it, for the lockdown.
So get it on, Get it on.
Where's it? It's the coolest
Kids,
instrument in the world.
everyone's sleeping. Everyone's sleeping. I'm waking up my boy now. I got it.
It seems so unfair that they should be sleeping when they could be participating in this with all the other Goldmans.
Look at my boy. Where's this? How do you change him? Sleeping on the floor over there.
Oh, sweet man.
Oh my God, are you in a refugee center?
He wants to sleep. He wants to sleep with me, so he wants to sleep on the floor in my room.
Okay.
Okay, now let off.
Okay. Lala tov. Ciao.
Cheers, Ness.
At some point in time, I haven't had dinner yet. I really must go to.
Cher, are you there?
What's for dinner, Howard?
I need to go look in the fridge.
Are you well stocked up, Howie?
You know something? I get daily deliveries. Hopefully tomorrow there will be a Checkers delivery. Pick and Pay delivered yesterday. Woolworths are due for the 11th.
Scheduled like the Jewish Report panels.
How do you do your stock management, Howie? How do you do your stock, your forecasts?
No,
How do you manage that?
Develop some software.
I got an advanced algorithm.
Exactly, and you need to scan your products in and scan your products out when you have them. It's not easy.
Does your fridge automatically replace the order? Like, is it a full IoT system connected to Checkers? So as the yogurt hits wine, that just reorders.
I open my
fridge. Your yogurt never hits wine, eh?
Never. We always have a minimum of 4.
According to Brandon at your wedding, 15.
Yeah, you never want to be short.
I'm short, but I'm hoping still to grow. Look, if Sharon Finkelsen's not joining us, then I'm definitely going to go have dinner.
Yeah, guys, I'm going to start wrapping this up. This has been amazing.
Been real. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah. Howie Still's unbelievable work, eh? Great nights.
Thank you for allowing me to gate crash your little gathering here.
No, well, we were quite generous in letting you back into the room that you just stormed out of.
More than I deserve, I may add. Cheers, guys. Good night.
Gee, thanks for the show, guys.
Thanks so much. And to the rest of the Goldmans.
Thanks. Cheers, guys.